Hey, you guys, I hear you about the sound. You can't hear me apparently. I don't know what's going on. The only thing I can think is that they're forcing the switch over from the old YouTube studio to the new one, and they won't let us use the classic anymore. And it was right when that changeover happened that people started complaining about the sound on my videos, only on certain devices. Some people can hear them fine, and some people can't hear the sound at all. So it's something in the translation. Something's going on in the upload process with YouTube, because here the sound is fine. What I'm going to do is re-upload it. I'm going to go to the old YouTube studio. They said till the end of March, so we have about a week. And I don't know if my videos are going to work after that, but I'll run this thing through the uploader again and see if we can get the sound leveled out for the people who couldn't hear it. I already have the volume maxed out in the editor, so I will put the finished product back in the editor, which should equalize it mid-range, and then I'll max it out again and then upload it through the classic, the legacy uploader on YouTube, and see if we can get this straightened out. But the error is in translation. It's not here. It plays fine here, but when I run it through YouTube, then it screws it up for certain devices. So the translation errors in YouTube, and getting a hold of anybody at YouTube or getting that fixed or anything, it's just not going to happen. That's impossible. So I'll just do all I can do. So if you've already watched the coronavirus video that I uploaded, this is basically the same exact thing. This is just a new edit and a re-upload of that, trying to get the sound leveled out and some things changed. I do wish that I thought about going back and putting the Q stuff in here, because I could see from the comments there's a lot of people into that. And that's a super interesting topic, but I'll do a dedicated video to that because not everybody's into that. And yeah, if you watch the whole video, when I get to the part, it's about the hour and a half mark where I'm talking about the celebrities that are all testing positive. It's fascinating, juxtaposed against the statistics, that you would ever know anybody. You know, out of the tens of millions of people in my state, there's like 20 people. So the odds that you would ever, actually know somebody personally that tested positive for coronavirus are just astronomical. And I do the statistics. I type it into the calculator right on the screen and do the statistics. The 0.0000. The chance that you would have somebody in your circle that tests positive, the statistics are there, and yet we see the celebrities are all of them. They're all the politicians, all the world leaders, major world leaders, presidents and prime ministers and actors, Tom Hanks, and people who were specifically named in this QAnon movement. Yeah, many of them have disappeared and locked down right now, sort of Podesta style. So just statistically speaking, mathematically speaking, factually speaking, the statistics are astronomical. The difference between the CDC numbers and the numbers of people in the celebrity elitist ruling class that are testing positive, because they themselves are less than 1% of the population, but yet they are testing positive all over the place. So whether you attribute that to propaganda, to fearmonger, or whether you attribute that to what the QAnon movement is saying is happening, that this is the cover story because this is the largest intelligent international intelligence operation that has ever taken place in anybody's lifetime. It's very interesting. So I want to do a dedicated video on that. There are some interesting things to look at. And if you watch this video that I'm re-uploading right now, you'll see that the statistics and the government response and all of nothing is matching up. Nothing's making sense here. But I didn't get into the more fringe stuff like the QAnon movement. And whether you believe in that or not, whether you hate that or not, it's still newsworthy. It's still worth discussing. The theory goes that it was Weinstein taking a plea deal and turning state's evidence to get his sentence decreased, and that's what they needed to unseal the indictments. and Jeffrey Epstein was entered into the witness protection program, that his, of course, death, that's how they do when they relocate mob families. His death was faked so that he could enter the witness relocation program if he agreed to testify, so that in front of the grand jury, so that they could start unsealing these indictments before the election. And that's why the whole impeachment happened, that it was the cabal versus the white hats, basically. They pulled all the stops. They're like, we have to get him out of office. We have to stop this. This is happening now. And because they couldn't get him out of office with the impeachment, then they loosed this thing. So then the theory splits two ways there. And it's, did the communists unleash this because the impeachment didn't work? And this is war. We're at war. Or is this just the cover story so that all of these people can start disappearing for months and weeks, and they can just say they're in isolation until they can take down the major players in the crime syndicate? So that's the basic theory. And, it's worth talking about, whether you believe it or not. It's still interesting conversation. So I'll do a dedicated video on that. But anyway, here's the re-upload of this video, which also has plenty of interesting information. And I hope sound works better.
According to the World Health Organization, we are now in a global pandemic.
I'm officially declaring a national emergency.
Airports have been empty for several days, and now all stores except for pharmacies and food markets will be closed. Take a look at this. St. Peter's Square at the Vatican empty as the country with the highest death rate grapples with getting the spread under control.
Wuhan's 38,000 licensed medical workers were stretched thin as the virus progressed. As people turned up at fever clinics, the city's health system was buckling under the strain.
French Prime Minister Edouard Philippe has ordered the closure of all non-essential public locations from midnight 2300 Greenwich Mean Time Saturday in response to the coronavirus outbreak. The measure applies to restaurants, cafes, cinemas and discos, as well as non-essential businesses.
Overnight, Apple, sir, they announced that they're going to be closing all of their stores for 2 weeks. Do you want to see other retail outlets, restaurants, stuff like that, do the same thing?
I think it's fine if they do it. I think frankly, it's good if they do it. I think what Apple did is fine. And want to keep people away for a little while, just keep them away.
The fast-spreading COVID-19 pandemic is pushing New York City closer towards lockdown, as the city mayor Bill de Blasio said on Sunday that he would order restaurants, bars and cafes to only sell food on a takeout or delivery basis. He also said he would order nightclubs, movie theaters, small theater houses and concert venues to close. The death toll from COVID-19 rose to 65 in the United States on Sunday, prompting the Fed to cut interest rates to close to 0% in a bid to stem the crumbling global economy.
Late Friday night, the Pentagon halting all official domestic travel for service members, DoD civilians and their families, effective March 16th through May 11th.
In some states, the National Guard now helping with basic necessities.
They told us that they needed help, and that's what we're here to do.
Across the country, schools suspended, 13 statewide closures.
I'm scared for my girls.
As the virus continues to spread, so does fear. In Louisiana, the presidential primary rescheduled for June 20th.
So starting today, I am ordering pursuant to my emergency powers that certain events in King, Snohomish, and Pierce County with more than 250 people are prohibited by order of the governor. These events that are prohibited are gatherings for social, recreational, spiritual, and other matters, including but not limited to community, civic, public, leisure, faith-based, or sporting events. Parades, concerts, festivals, conventions, fundraisers, and similar activities of that dimension are prohibited as we go forward. Spiritual, faith-based.
All right, we've got this breaking news. Rome's Catholic churches have now been ordered to close, all of them, because of the coronavirus. This is a move believed to be unprecedented in modern times.
In Boston, church services canceled, more sporting events canceled, the Masters and NASCAR races. And all embarking U.S. cruises stopped, a request from the president himself to keep the deadly pandemic from spiraling.
2 major retailers also closing their doors, tech giant Apple and outdoor gear label Patagonia.
Seattle's now a ghost town. not a soul on the street. Sharp contrast to supermarkets across the country. Another symptom that life as we know it has changed.
Steph, obviously this is going to take a toll on a lot of Americans right now. Perhaps no one more than restaurant workers, your waitresses, your waiters there, your Uber and Lyft drivers, those hourly workers in this country. Are they the ones who are going to be hardest hit by this?
Without a doubt.
This is an economic crisis, and it's not just a Boeing issue. This is an issue for airlines. This is an issue for their Boeing's top competitor, Airbus. Are there going to be actually orders this year when you have traffic down and travelers are just staying away from airplanes?
They don't.
It has been another extraordinary day. Stock markets opened in a state of high anxiety, which gave way to panic. Investors are in the dark. An economic shock of unknowable scale is upon us, and shares in companies are being sold off. The FTSE 100 closed down more than 10%, the second largest fall in its history.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, even in 2008, we didn't see falls like that.
No, these are bigger. This is bigger than 2008.
Breaking news from Wall Street in the wake of the coronavirus crisis. Stocks have stopped trading on Wall Street after a 7% drop in the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 in the first minutes of trading this morning. I want to go to Rebecca Jarvis on the New York Stock Exchange this morning. And Rebecca, this is continuing the falls we've seen over the last couple of weeks as the coronavirus crisis expands, and is exacerbated by an oil price war sparked between Saudi Arabia and Russia.
It's a historic day for markets. It's an environment we've not seen since 2008 and perhaps even long before then. For many asset classes, these are moves that are unprecedented.
Its healthcare system strained so badly, medical professionals fear resources may run out.
We need to shut down everything. Here, it was like a bomb. It exploded, and all of a sudden, you are overwhelmed by the patient.
Italy's government's heeding the calls. Everything but food markets and pharmacies are shutting down.
Hey everybody, how you doing out there? I hope everybody is well. Is this crazy or what? So I know a lot of you have wondered where I have been, and there's been so much going on around here. So I just wanted to touch base and do a video about my coronavirus story. My coronavirus story has nothing to do with being sick or getting the virus. In fact, nobody I know has the virus, and there's nobody hardly in this entire state who has the virus. Nobody's died in this state, but they have locked us down. So I'm here in Illinois, so today they finally locked us down. They've been sending messages home from school saying things like it's inevitable, it's coming, we're putting systems in place to homeschool your children through the internet, and essentially quarantine you in your homes, and you'll have to school from home. Please make arrangements for childcare. I know that a lot of the parents work, and this is going to be the children are taken care of by the school all day, so they're going to be home now. Please start thinking about making arrangements for childcare and for their schooling and all of this stuff. They've been preparing us. But the news for sure came today. I was working on a video. I've been working on the video for several days, but it's obsolete by the time I can't get to the end of it before it's obsolete. This thing's moving so fast. So the video I was working on last night was talking about the first two states that locked down all of their school systems. And then this morning, Friday the 13th, we get the notice. Well, it was actually this evening. We get the fifth or sixth group message sent out stating that the governor had made the announcement, the Illinois governor had made the announcement that he was closing the schools. So as of the 17th. And it's just gotten worse and worse from there. They're locking down. It's so fast. It's changing by the hour. They're locking us down on everything. All the businesses are closing, which means everybody's out of work, and all the kids being out of school, and all the daycares closed. Working parents like me, I work 3 jobs. Now we have to homeschool our children. It's not like they just put them out of school. No, they sent them home with giant packets that we are supposed to educate them online and email pictures to the teachers and stuff. So on top of all my jobs, I also now have to be a full-time teacher. So it puts us in a lose-lose situation. What do I do? Do I quit my jobs? I can't leave my son unattended. Now I have to be a full-time, I have to be here full-time for him. I also have to be a full-time teacher. I also have to do all of my job. And on top of closing all the businesses, they also closed all gatherings over 250 people. So essentially, one of my jobs, they put me out of work anyway. I was unemployed. They made me unemployed overnight. And I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one facing this. Tons of people I know who work in the restaurants and stuff, they're just unemployed overnight. No paycheck. And on top of no paycheck, there's no food in the stores anyway. The shelves are wiped out. And now the children are home, so they need an extra 10 meals a week that they have to provide because normally the children would eat breakfast and lunch at school. So it's just a mess that the government has created, a huge mess. Not the virus, the things that the government are implementing. And then they're implementing more things to fix the mess that they created. And honestly, in the beginning, the virus itself was, I know they said fish market, but we all know the epicenter really seems to be that lab in Wuhan, China, that the virus escaped from. So, it's like the government creates a mess by weaponizing something, and then they create a bigger mess trying to fix it. And of course, we all know that it's problem solution. This is the way they take away our freedoms. And I mean, look, we're literally locked down. And they have most people thanking them for it. Thank you for locking us down and instituting martial law and making us all lose our jobs and, causing such fear-mongering and panic. Thank you. Whew. I'm glad you guys stepped in. So that's what I want to focus on in this video. That's the real coronavirus story. Step by step, we'll go back to Wuhan, China. We'll go through the statistics. We'll look at the actual facts, and we'll look at historically. We'll look at the other plagues that have come and how we reacted and what the result was, and just look at the actual facts and try to figure out logically, with all of the puzzle pieces we have, why are they treating this one so much differently? So drastically differently than, say, H1N1, swine flu, bird flu, all of these other weaponized viruses. What do they know that we don't know? It's a tremendous amount of chaos, and not 1 ounce of the chaos in my coronavirus story is caused by a virus. Like I said, I don't know anybody who's sick, but everybody I know is suffering one way or another because of the lockdowns, because the governments have locked us down. I mean, you just heard the news coverage in the montage at the beginning of this video that as of Sunday night, there were only 65 deaths in our country. So the odds of you actually knowing somebody, you being one of the 350 million people who know one of these 65 people, and most of them were in 1 or 2 nursing homes, a handful of nursing homes over on the West Coast. And I'm not just saying that to be sensational or to minimize or to force my opinion on anybody. I'm just going to deal with some facts right now. And the fact is, especially early on here as of March 11th, that more than 60% of the coronavirus deaths were in these nursing homes. They were already very ill and needed constant nursing to begin with, hence the nursing home. And regardless of what the controllers and elitists choose to do, we need to keep our heads on and be pragmatic and realistic. Justin Trudeau just closed Canada's border to everybody. Nobody's allowed to go into Canada anymore if you're not already a citizen of Canada. And they've had 1 death in their entire country. This is unprecedented that any nation that would have an entire country has 1 death and they take such drastic measures to completely close the borders. This is something to be considered when we are talking about roadblocks and martial law and people stopping people from traveling and shelter in place and all of this stuff when we're dealing with, 1 death in 4 months. Things like that, or for us it was 60 years. Ours is up to 70 today. Right now it is Monday at 1:42 in the afternoon, March 16th here. And out of our almost 400 million citizens in our nation, 70 people have died from this. And this isn't even the first coronavirus that they've loosed on us. The coronavirus is a group of related viruses. We've had SARS and MERS, H1N1, swine flu, bird flu, all of these things also deemed to be pandemics. H1N1 was declared a pandemic. These, we've seen this before. And the statistics of death from those viruses were far worse, far worse. And nobody closed any borders. Nobody closed any schools. Nobody went into panic mode and started wiping out the shelves. Nobody was locked down. Businesses weren't locked down, and all of this chaos. Why? We have to ask ourselves why. And hang with me, because I'm not making a political statement either way. I know everybody's spinning this for their own political interest and all of that you'll have the people on the left saying, oh, well, this president isn't doing enough to stop coronavirus. When the Obama administration had tens of millions more cases in the United States during the last pandemic and did nothing. But then on the same token, you have the right wing saying, yeah, look how great this is that the government's locking us down, because they are doing more than Obama. So I'm not making a political statement that either side was in the right or either side was in the wrong right now yet. I'll get into some of my own opinions toward the end. Right now, I just want to focus on the facts. And whether you are right wing or you are left wing, you have to admit, we can come together on common ground right now and admit that based on history, what we are seeing now is unprecedented and is deserving of us taking a long, hard look and having a deep conversation about why.
Let's look at some perspective here. Back in 2009, we have a Biden-Obama record on a global pandemic. This is H1N1, and I'll use Joe's words, the Biden-Obama ticket, as he calls it. Well, they never enacted a travel ban. That year, the CDC estimated, get this, in the year that we had the first year of that virus, 60.8 million Americans were infected with H1N1. No travel ban. In other words, 1 in 5 Americans got that disease in the first year. That resulted in over 274,000 Americans hospitalized. Nearly 13,000 deaths in that year alone. Worldwide, up to 575,000 people died in 2009 and 10, that first year, April to April, from H1N1, better known as the swine flu. No travel ban, and naturally, despite thousands of deaths, millions of cases, the media mob's coverage at the time, wow, very different. It was measured. It was calm. The mob supported their president. They loved their president. Take a look.
Should there be a worst case scenario, but administration officials are emphasizing here, Frederica, it's not that they are expecting one.
More than 1,000 people in the U.S. have died from the H1N1 virus, 90 in the last week. The federal government had predicted there would be 100 million doses of vaccine by now, but as of this weekend, about 11 million were available. When we hear emergency, alarm bells start to go off. What exactly does this declaration mean?
Well, the first thing to say is people shouldn't panic when they hear this.
Can you see? Can you see? I mean, wow, what a drastic difference in response when you have the heads of nations, presidents and prime ministers of nations stopping all travel and closing all the businesses and closing down all of the school systems and all of this when they have one death in the entire nation in months. And you just saw that H1N1 was just one example. I'm about to give you a whole bunch more. But the point is, it's not just our federal government. It's the governments of the entire world. Italy has shut down. Spain has shut down. France has already locked down their nation. So there are several countries way ahead of us. But we need to be aware that they have already mobilized National Guard in our nation, as well as, like the clip I played in the montage at the very beginning, travel bans for other military to stay put in case they need to get a hold of them. And out on the West Coast, I'll show you some clips here in a minute, that they have bought hotels and stuff to quarantine people in. And they're talking openly, the sheriff's departments, the mayors, that they need armed guards to force people even who are not infectious, to force people to stay put, to shelter in place. They are locking people down. And out of the almost 13 million people in my state, nobody has died. And I think 20 people, 25 people. I'm going to go through the actual statistics state by state here in just a minute. And I think it's about 25 people statewide. And they locked down every school system in the entire state. And they're talking about all sorts of, options for travel bans. And it's just unbelievable. And all of our store shelves are empty. I went to the store just to get a few things, and it was empty. Nobody's even sick around here, anywhere close to me. I just can't believe it. I mean, I can believe it, because of course people are scared that there's going to be martial law and we're going to be forced to be quarantined in our homes, and we have to shelter in place. So, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, I don't get it. So that's the coronavirus story that I want to talk about, is all of the implications for all of the decisions that are being made for us and how they are affecting regular people. So people who weren't damaged, who weren't sick, who weren't in any danger at all, are being financially crippled. They're being thrust into a sort of Great Depression mentality. The stock market's crashing. It's like the Great Famine is coming. There's not enough. The supply chain can't keep up, and there's nothing in the grocery stores, and just all of this, all of these repercussions. And with me, like I said, it's hitting me close to home. It's affecting my child. It's affecting our well-being. It's affecting our my ability to work and provide for my family. All of that. Not the virus. The virus isn't doing any of that. I haven't seen hide nor hair of any virus. What's doing that is the decisions being made by those people who make decisions for us, and the tone and the narrative of the propaganda being broadcast. So let's get to it. Let's look at the facts. Facts, just the facts, ma'am.
Just the facts, ma'am.
And I agree. That's the perfect place to start, no? Okay, so here we have the actual statistics, and you can see this is updated March 13th as of 11 p.m., which is when I'm taping. This probably won't go up for a couple of days because I've got company coming in, and and hopefully we'll get to gather before they outlaw it. So this is as of March 13th. And this video will be edited and uploaded a few days from now, but you get the point. This is current information. So worldwide, we have 145,632 confirmed cases with 5,400 fatalities. So that's a fact. It's also a fact that the population of the Earth is approximately 7,600,000,000 people, and 5,000 people have died from the coronavirus. So let's pop the calculator up and take a look at that. So it's 5,436 divided by, I'll be conservative, 7,600,000,000 people. So you can see this looks like it'd be 7%, but it's e to the -7. So you're talking 0.00000. It's nowhere close, nowhere, anywhere, even remotely close to even 1%. And a lot of people might look at the number and still not grasp what I'm saying, that because they see a whole number of 7. So when you do a negative exponent, it's like this. A negative exponent is like having 1 over a number raised to a positive exponent. So like 7 to the -3 exponent would be 1 over 7 times itself 3 times. 7 times 7 times 7. So I just grabbed this because it was an easy explanation of the math, but we were actually looking at 7 to the negative 7th exponent. So it would be 1 over not just 300, it would be 1 over 823,453. Well, this would be it right here. It's 0. It's 0.000000. It's 0. The answer is 0. No matter how you round it, it's 0.00000. Infinitesimal, an indefinitely small quantity, a value approaching 0. A number that is so small that you have to put e to the negative 7 behind it. That's what we're talking about. Essentially 0% of the world population, an infinitesimal number. And yet we see country after country in an unprecedented way shutting down, locking down entire countries. And yet just a few years ago, when the novel H1N1 infected over 60 million people, none of these nations shut down. Italy didn't lock down, France didn't lock down, Spain didn't lock down, Canada didn't lock down, nobody locked down for these 60 million people. And you can go and look, this is the actual CDC website. This isn't some ragmag. This is cdc.gov with these estimates. The same CDC that just today said that we should not be allowed to gather more than 50 humans, that we all have to be in forced isolation. That same CDC.
Late Sunday night, an unprecedented recommendation from the CDC. All in-person events of 50 or more people should be canceled for the next 8 weeks. The news comes amid chaos and gridlock at airport customs checkpoints. From Dallas to New York to Chicago O'Hare, thousands upon thousands of travelers returning from Europe, forced to stand shoulder to shoulder over the weekend for 4, 6, even 8 hours, waiting to get through customs and newly required health screenings. Exactly the kind of massive crowds the nation's health experts are trying to avoid.
Americans should be prepared that they're going to have to hunker down significantly more than we as a country are doing.
Dr. Fair, just fast forward a week, 2 weeks. What do you expect, given the trajectory that we're on, what do you expect things to look like?
It's just an expectation, but I would say that we will approach Italy, Spain, France, and we are going to eventually have to implement, if it continues the way it is with people not taking it seriously, because there's no choice, frankly, that we start now. And frankly, I would advocate that, we take a week to plan it, because there's going to be a very large safety net for, there has to be a 14-day shutdown of all non-essential services across the country. Because again, if we don't do that everywhere, it's going to just keep popping up in different hotspots.
Remember now, the measures they're taking now, we're not going to know if they're going to work until 5 to 14 days from now, because that's when the incubation period is.
Well, so make no mistake, just because you went to the store and got a few groceries and you're like, okay, we're cool, we're set, if we got to hunker in for 14 days and then this thing will be passed, they're not talking at all about it being passed. They're talking about, President Trump said today in his national address or in his press conference that we're talking months. And they're not, the CDC isn't loosening things. They're saying outright, we won't even know if what we've done so far has been at all effective for 14 days from now. So in 2 weeks from now, they're planning, they're saying openly, their plan is to be more strict and more strict and more strict, more restrictions, the loss of more freedoms, more isolation, more business closures, more chaos. That's what they say is coming. Don't get me wrong, I hope it does pass. That'd be fantastic. But that's not what they're saying they see coming down the pike, because 70 people died in the United States of America, when just a few years ago, over 60 million people, and it says really the estimates could be as high as 90 million. When 90 million people, they themselves said 90 million people were involved in this pandemic, nobody locked down anything. Nobody closed schools nationwide or statewide. Nobody did any of this. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean to be calloused at all. I've lost loved ones. It's horrific. Nobody wants anybody to perish or suffer in any way, but we have to be realistic that there is risk involved in life, period. To walk outside your door is a risk. To breathe air is a risk. To even sit in your own home. There's been people sitting in their own home and planes crashed into their home, or cars came crashing through the wall. There's been people who were struck by lightning inside their own homes. We cannot remove the risk by removing the freedom of all humans, the freedom to move about. I mean, just cars. Every year, 1.3 million people die in car accidents. We don't just, oh, run out, close all the roads down immediately, call the National Guard. Everybody get out of the cars. There's too much risk involved. No travel ban everywhere, constantly, for all times, because there is risk in traveling. I mean, do you guys see the lunacy? I get that there is risk with human contact. There is risk in traveling, even before the coronavirus was in this world. But you can't alleviate risk. It is part of life. Taking away all of our freedoms, making it mandatory to go into isolation like we're prisoners, that is not in any way an answer or a solution to anything. And it still doesn't alleviate the risk. Even if people sit in their cars and do drive-through coronavirus testing, even just getting in your car to go there to do the drive-through coronavirus test, you're putting yourself at more risk, far more risk, than actually coming into contact with the coronavirus. 3,278 deaths every day from car accidents. You have far greater chance of dying in your car, getting out on the road, than you do dying of coronavirus. Knowledge alleviates fear. There's no need to fear. This is terrorism. That's what terrorism does. They can't actually take over an entire nation, so they terrorize the people. You know, they'll blow up a bus, they'll blow up a deli, they'll blow up, so people get so scared they will, oh, well, I'm not going to go to the deli. Oh, I'm not going to ride the bus. Oh, I'm not, you know. So they do these little tiny things and terrorize huge swaths of people. That's the very definition of terrorism. It's fear. To instill fear. That's the strategy. That's the tactic. So to see our mainstream media and the political pressure on people, it's an election year, so you've got to do something, you've got to do more. And then, you know, of course, the communists, they want everybody locked down. I mean, welcome to Venezuela, you guys. My in-laws went to get canned goods to make vegetable soup, and Walmart said there was a 2-can ration. You only could have 2 cans. And I went to get toilet paper, and they had been out for days and days and days, but they brought out 1 pallet, and they were the little packs, you know, the little 4-packs or whatever. And I put 3 in my basket, and the Walmart employee, not 3 mega packs, 3 little 4-packs. And the Walmart lady came over and said, no, limited 2. So, you know, this is what the communists want. They're always on rations. Welcome to Venezuela. So on one side, you have the socialists, you know, national socialists or international socialists is the definition of a communist. You have the communists who want this. This is their agenda. And then on the other side, you have political pressure in an election year, like we showed earlier, which is a total double standard, because during the Biden years, when Biden was vice president and Obama was in office, they had millions and millions and tens of millions of people infected, and they didn't do any of this, right? But their side is putting all the pressure on the mainstream media. That, well, why isn't everybody doing more? You know, that sort of just hypocrisy. It's ridiculous. But you know what? It's not ridiculous because it works. Because look at us now. Look at us now. We have given up all of our freedoms. We're on rations. We're in forced isolation. You know, there's strength in numbers, and they won't allow us any numbers. How could you possibly even protest the lockdown? Because to have a protest, an organized protest, you'd be breaking their rules of having more than 10 people in one location or 50 people in one location. So they just round you up. You see how this works? You see how diabolical this is? This is terrorism 101. That's what this is. And actually, as soon as we get done laying down the basic facts, the real reality of the statistics and facts of what's going on right now with this virus, then we're going to get into why people say, a lot of people are saying, this is one of the largest CIA intelligence operations ever to hit the world. It's like Jade Helm was for the United States. It involves several states in one military exercise. That this is one military exercise that involves locking down several nations. And they'll see, they're testing like a beta test to see how far they can push the people without revolt. Will they take it? So after we get done with the facts, we will take some time and let's just talk. We can speculate. It's still a free country. You know what I mean. We'll try to speculate. We'll see if they'll let us. In fact, let me go up here and stretch this out. I'll show you just how free it is right now. Yeah, here's the important message they put at the top of my YouTube channel. Due to COVID-19, we will conduct fewer human reviews to protect the health of our extended workforce. Unfortunately, as a result, we may remove content that doesn't even violate our community guidelines. So they're like, we're just going to tell you up front. Not that we're going to be doing fewer human reviews so you have more freedom. No, they're like, we're going to be doing fewer human reviews, so we just want to let you know that even though you don't break any rules or violate any guidelines, we're still going to be removing content. Don't try to contact us. There will be no humans here. You know, it's ridiculous. So I don't even know if this video will be allowed to go up. But I'm sure going to give it a shot. We're going to try and have a free discussion and just speculate a little and talk about, you know, cover some of the things that people are suggesting. And there's a lot of very valuable information and facts, actual facts, in some of these older videos. I think Leah's been streaming some of the older videos from Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Harvey, when we talked about this Walmart FEMA camp connection and their disaster relief program. And on there, we put straight off the Walmart website the description of their supply networks and strategically using their superstores as this infrastructure for disaster relief. There's an actual program in place. So it's not a coincidence, I don't believe anyway, that they are funneling us. You notice all of the other businesses have to close. That's the government mandate. But Walmart can stay open. Amazon can stay open. Amazon is removing all of the smaller stores who are quote unquote price gouging. They are deleting people selling supplies, you know, the sanitizers and toilet paper and stuff online, so that they are the only supplier. So there's this sort of bottleneck, this funneling of people to be dependent on Walmart as the primary distribution center for, you know, at least our entire country, which is what many, so many people have been shown by the Lord in prophetic dreams and visions about Walmart being a refugee camp, essentially, that people had to go to Walmart to get their rations. And, you know, eventually they become these type of camps, and there's tents, like tent cities in the parking lots, and then, you know, just some crazy stuff. And I'll tack a little montage of several people's clips from several people's prophetic visions when we get to that part, when we start talking about the really interesting, the really intriguing stuff. And this actually answers a few questions that I had in 2 of the visions, maybe 3 of the visions that I had posted years and years and years ago that are still on these channels. So you can go back and reference that. I'm not making this up. There were details of those that I didn't understand that this brings a lot of clarity to. You know, there are some really fascinating theories circulating, even having to do with 5G and overlaying those maps and stuff, which I want to show you. There's actually some scientific backing to that and some really creepy geographic evidence that you probably wouldn't suspect. But we'll get into that in just a minute. Let's just finish up these facts. Intelligent, functional people do not base their decisions on fear or on emotion, but they make informed decisions. Okay, so just the facts, ma'am. Here we go.
Just the facts, ma'am.
So the first fact that we've established is that this is an infinitesimal amount of people affected on this earth. Now, I won't have time to do this with every single country, but I'll just start out with my country, and then we'll touch on some of the bigger ones in Europe and, of course, China, that type of thing here in a minute. But here in the United States of America, our population is approximately 330 million people. And the number of confirmed cases of coronavirus in the United States of America is 2,291. 2,291 divided by, again, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and I'll be conservative. Let's say 320 million souls in our nation. Again, e to the negative 6.00000. So infinitesimal amount of people, 2,000 people confirmed cases and only 50 fatalities. So well over 80% of the people have mild symptoms. And that's by the CDC's right here, coronavirus. 80% of the cases are mild and the people recover. They don't have any treatment. There's no treatment for this or for a virus in general. You can't take antibiotics. They don't work on viruses. The people just go home and rest like any virus. Keep your fever down, take Tylenol, do what you got to do, and get through it. Take some cough medicine, that type of thing. It's like the flu. So 80% have mild symptoms. That's not just my opinion. Those are the statistics. And of course, if you see the mainstream news, and that's what we're going to focus on here, about the harm that is being done. Is it being done by the virus or is it being done by a regime? Where is the harm, the most amount of harm coming from? So I just showed you that the infection rate is infinitesimal, and yet all of the news headlines are not how many are infected, not facts. They don't want to broadcast facts. They broadcast could infect 60% of the global population. Right? Over and over. Here we go. You know, expert warns coronavirus could infect 60%. Virus expert, as much as 70% of the world's population. A Harvard University epidemiologist says that as much as 70% of the world's population could get the coronavirus. So they're not broadcasting the facts, like I just showed you. The facts of the population and what percentage of the population is being affected by the coronavirus. They're saying it could be, it could infect, and they're you know what they're doing. They're fear mongering. So yeah, the coronavirus is affecting 100% of the world population at this point. The stock markets are crashing. Governments are kicking around the idea of implementing martial law from this panic that many believe is an overreaction. Okay, so here is just the regular flu that we all get, sometimes several times a season, believe it or not, because it mutates as well. And there are several strains of the flu going any given year. So this is right up here, straight from the CDC. See, that's the official CDC website. This isn't some, crazy conspiracy theory site. This is the Center for Disease Control. And they say these are just the numbers. This is just for 6 months. So this isn't even a full year. And how many months are we into? They say the first case, patient 0 of coronavirus, was November, was it 17th or 21st? So the end of November. So November, December, January, February, March. We're 5 months into coronavirus. or at least a good 4 months into coronavirus. This is 6 months right here, October through March, just 1 month earlier of the flu. So they have 36 million to 51 million people infected, 17 million to 24 million medical tests given. And they swabbed my son for the flu and all of that. And they said, yeah, he tests positive for the flu, go home and tough it out. And charged me, because I didn't have insurance, so I got to pay for everything. Charged me, was it like $428 to swab his nose and, for the labs, and then like $120 for the visits. They're like, here's your $600 bill. And yeah, he's got the flu, go home. And they wouldn't, didn't even prescribe cough medicine or anything. It's like, okay, hey, thanks. Here's your $600. All right. Thanks for telling me what I already knew. But the point is, the flu is dangerous. Right here, 370,000 to 670,000 people hospitalized. And yeah, 1 year my son's turned into pneumonia. And that's horrible to see your little one, a little 5-year-old, in the hospital with all the tubes and the IVs and stuff. So it's no joke. And 22,000 to 55,000 deaths. And make no mistake, I don't think I said it at the beginning, this is just the United States numbers right here. This is out of 330 million people, 51 million were infected, and up to 55,000 died from the flu just in the United States in the last 6 months. Right here, you're seeing it with your own eyes. This is a fact. Nobody shut down the schools. Nobody shut down the subways and started spraying stuff, and nobody cleaned out the shelves of all of the, the necessities. Nothing. Nobody thought anything about 55,000 people dying of the flu that we face every single year just in the last 6 months, just in the United States of America. They didn't shut anything down. They didn't shut one university down. They didn't shut one store down. They didn't shut one school down. They didn't make people stay in their homes. In fact, I got a letter from the school because they sent my son home with 103 fever, and they can't go back to school for 24 hours when they have a fever and all that. So he missed, had to miss 3 days. So if you miss over like 7 days a year, they send you a nasty gram that the government demands your child put in a 40-hour work week, or, you have to get a note from somebody, and, all of this. That's what it's like in Illinois. Seriously, they want the 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds that put in 40-hour work weeks. There's no excuses. Over X amount of days, they'll turn you into the government, and they'll assign a sort of caseworker to you, a truancy officer or something, to help teach you how to get your kid back into the Hitler Youth Camp or whatever. But anyway, I'm ranting. The point is, they're like, no, you don't miss. I don't care how sick you are, unless you have a fever, or, you're vomiting right in the classroom trash can, you're here. You make it here. So nobody cared that 55,000 people died in the last 6 months in the United States of America of this virus. But this virus, in the last 4 months since November, those statistics were since October, and this one is since November. 50 people. And we have 8 states that have locked down their states, and this is Illinois. My state got locked down. 0 deaths from coronavirus, from COVID-19. 0. And they lock us down. I mean, what do I have to do? Who do I have to talk to? How do I get the attention of a politician or someone at the CDC to explain to them the number 0? It's 0. There are 0 deaths. That's nowhere close to what the Illinois Department of Public Health says that we've had in regular flu. 20,956 cases of the regular flu. and 7 deaths in the last couple of weeks. They talk about overflowing the hospital. It says right here, there's over 1,200 people in ICU, just from what we know as the common flu, the different flu strains that are out there. But this is coronavirus. 0 in Illinois. And I know that number will probably change or could change by the time I get this uploaded in the next couple of days. But at the time of this taping and at the time that the government issued the lockdowns, 0. We didn't have any deaths from coronavirus in our state. The point I'm trying to get across, I'm done with facts. You guys get it. You've heard it all. But the point is, this is the evidence. There is something going on here. This is not just something that's organically happening. So now I want to discuss some of the theories about what is happening. Do they know something we don't know about this virus being weaponized? Or is this the beta test? Is this a drill? Or is this the real event that we've been talking about, like in the Black Awakening series, in everything we've been talking about, that they have prepared for an event? Is it time? Is this what it looks like when it starts to bud, when it starts to bloom? There will be a beginning at some point. It will kick off. So, we've all been talking about for years, the stock market crash is coming. We have to have a cashless society. And, what better way to achieve that than a virus? You can't handle all of this dirty paper money. They've already closed down the stores. You can't even go inside and eat at a table. You can't have people using money, handing it to other people. That's just too dangerous. Is this one of the first events? Is this part of the actual event? Or do we have a little more time and this is just a dry run? So I guess what I'm saying is that my coronavirus story is the same story that 7.8 billion people have right now. There's a handful, a couple of thousand people who have a different story. So if you were expecting me to get on here and say, yeah, I've been coughing, here's a video of me laying in the hospital bed, I'll be home in 3 days, that's not my story. My story is the same as most people's story, billions of people's story, that there's essentially a 0.000 death rate as compared to the population, the human population. But yet we're seeing, like you can see here, 911's getting calls about neighbors coughing. In my threat analysis, based on facts, it appears to me that the mass hysteria is far more dangerous than the death rates on this new virus. And if I was going to choose to fear something in this situation, I would definitely fear the actions of the governments of the world more than I would fear, my neighbors coughing. Now, of course, if I had a husband with COPD or something like that, that would be a different situation. My son's best friend, Kenny, his dad has COPD really bad, really bad. So we've taken lots of precautions, their family does, and those around them do. Like his son, Kenny, stayed all night with us last weekend. I didn't even take them up to the church that I usually take them to, because it's one of those bigger churches in the area where there's lots of kids, and so I take them there when they stay. But I didn't want to take a chance in Kenny bringing something home to his dad, that it wouldn't hurt the kids, but we just don't want to put Ron at risk. So it's not that I'm saying don't take precautions. Of course, take precautions. If you look back at the 1918 Spanish flu epidemic, the pandemic that killed over 50 million people worldwide, you can see the historic evidence for the types of procedures that are being put into place now. That's why I'm saying, I'm not even saying that it's good or it's bad. It's between a rock and a hard place. We are in a place here at the end of the age where so much stuff has been turned loose in the world. There is no easy out. There is no easy answer. There is sacrifice in every direction. You just have to come to terms with that. And Again, I'm not saying that I agree. You know me and my love of freedom. I am not saying that I agree with the things that are being put into place, but I'm saying there is historical evidence that these types of procedures worked. San Francisco during the Spanish flu, they had a lockdown while all of these other states were being hit hard. They shut down their schools. They put a mandatory mask wearing. You could not go out in public without a mask in 1918. They used all of these draconian measures, and it saved their citizens. Now, do I think they did the right thing? In a lot of cases, no, absolutely not. Have you read the accounts and the letters and the primary documents? It was horrific in San Francisco. Like this LA Times article. By the middle of October, armed police flu squads were shooing shoppers along the sidewalks to keep groups from congregating. Schools were closed for at least 4 months. They did all the same things that we're doing now, right? They banned the parades, they banned crowds in public places, they closed the saloons, the concert halls, the churches, the theaters. It became a police state. They enforced it with martial law with armed guards. Police stood guard at the doors of rowdy taverns to enforce the closures. Indoor dances, boxing matches, meetings were canceled. Public transportation vehicles were disinfected daily. The advisory board's emergency laws stayed in place for nearly 2 months. Anyone who violated them was charged with a misdemeanor, with a conviction carrying a fine up to $500 or 6 months in jail. That's what I'm talking about. If you think there's no precedent in our nation's history that you can't even protest these lockdowns because they'll throw you in jail. This is how roundups happen. It's how they start. Everything, even what happened during World War II with the Nazis in Germany, those roundups after the Night of the Long Knives and stuff, it all started quote unquote legally. At the time, it wasn't perceived as this massive fascist, takeover. They perceived it as legal action at first. So anyway, it says that their strict measures paid off and they had half the death rate of other areas. But there were a lot of horrors from this that, of course, they had a reason to overreact. People with the Spanish flu, people would show symptoms and be dead 12 hours later. That was common. They would drop. It wasn't anything like what we're talking about now. This was the Spanish flu, the flu pandemic of 1918, killed over 50 million people. So not 50 people. This was bad. But still, that doesn't allow for other crimes against humanity. Is, one evil better than the other evil? There were records of the sheriff shooting people who wouldn't wear their masks. Right here, although masks were not mandatory in Los Angeles, they were in San Francisco. One San Francisco deputy health officer shot a man in the leg. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Shot a man in the leg and arm for refusing to wear a mask. The man was taken to the hospital where he was arrested for violating the mask law. And there were similar whistleblower reports coming out of China when they locked down that whole city and all of the migrant workers were trapped there and couldn't go home and were trying to make it to shelters and everything. So it's a complicated issue. I'm definitely not saying you need to shoot people for not wearing masks or anything like that. And I'm definitely not saying that this coronavirus with a 0.0000 death rate among the human population is the same thing as this virus. Nor do we live in the same times medically and technologically and all of that. But I am saying that we need to keep our heads on and assess things logically, instead of, even in the truth community, jumping to the conclusion everything's a conspiracy, everything is this, everything, it's always this, it's not always anything. People are making decisions. Some people are making decisions based on the best information they have. It may come across as evil to you, but maybe they're basing their decisions on what worked in the past. Or maybe they are making their decisions based on a corrupt agenda. The fact of the matter is, you don't know for sure, and I don't know for sure. And that's the takeaway. It really is. You know, we can't become dogmatic in these days. We have to, one thing that I have noticed in my prayer life and in my walk with the Lord is that over the last several months, He has expected on the spot obedience. Walking with the Lord and obeying the Lord used to, over the last several decades, He would sort of lay out a trajectory for me, lay out a plan for me, and let me work on that for a couple of years, or several months, or what He'd give me an assignment, a mission. This is your mission. I pray, because that's what I pray, Lord, how can I serve you? Where do you need me? What can I do? Where do I fit into the body? Just let me know. I am at your service. I surrender my life to you. And it's always been sort of, like I said, sort of a long-term plan over a year or 6 months. Here's your mission. Here's your mission. Here's your mission. And but over the last couple of months, it has been a day-to-day walk. It'll come out of the blue. I'll have a big plan for the day. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to mail out all these cards, and we're going to do this, and the Lord will step in and He's like, no, I need you here. Go here, do this. Local, a lot of local stuff. Go here, do this with this person, that person, this, but a lot of one-on-one, going after the souls, having crucial interactions with people for these times. So I really want that to be a takeaway for everybody. Please have a relationship with Jesus Christ, receive the Holy Spirit, learn to hear His voice, and walk with Him, because that's what it takes in these times. You might need, like I had some big plan, but instead He had me passing out dozens of eggs, to people who couldn't get eggs, or people who couldn't get toilet paper, or, whatever the situation was, to shine, to be His hands and feet in every situation that arises every day. And you will reap the benefits of His blessings. During the epidemic of 1918, there were complete communities of Bible believers who were not touched. And I know a lot of people, oh, that's a Jewish conspiracy. But you're missing the glory of God, because these groups of people kept the laws of Leviticus, the Levitical laws in the Holy Bible. And the Levitical laws aren't moral laws, they're medical laws. It's all wash your hands before you eat. If a mouse dies in a clay dish, you're not going to get that bacteria out of there. You need to break that dish. Don't use it to store milk and stuff like that. It's all medical laws that kept the people safe and healthy in the ancient times. And I know a lot of people have turned those into religion, and they got all these hand washing ceremonies, and they even pulled that on Jesus in the New Testament. The Pharisees come running up and they're like, why don't your apostles wash their hands? Because they were coming in from a long trip and they were eating the wheat in the field as they were walking. And they come up to the Lord Himself with their, religious nonsense, and not understanding the scriptures, having made it a religion. It's not a religion. God is not a religion. He's alive. He is the Holy Spirit. He is alive. You must have a personal relationship with Him to make it through these times. Religion isn't going to help you. Religion is nothing. It's just man-made traditions. People trying to please God by doing some repetitious ceremonial thing. That's not God. God is alive. You need a symbiotic biological relationship with an entity from another dimension. That's what you need. I'm sorry if that offends your religion, but you need a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Man-made traditions and rituals they're nothing. Matthew 15:12. Then some Pharisees and scribes came to Jesus from Jerusalem and asked, "Why do your disciples break the tradition of the elders? They do not wash their hands when they eat." Jesus replied, "And why do you break the command of God for the sake of your man-made tradition?" And then Jesus goes on and starts listing, you can go to Matthew 15 and read it, starts listing all of the things that they do. He says, "You hypocrites, Isaiah prophesied correctly about you. These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me." And that's the big takeaway. We have to honor the word of God for our own survival. And when he says, "Why do you forsake the commandment of God in lieu of tradition?" He's literally saying, the command of God, obey what I tell you to do. I'm your father. I love you. I want to protect you. If I ask you to do something, it's because it's what's best for you. When he's saying that they don't obey the command of God, in lieu of their traditions, they kept all the little jots and tittles of the scripture. They were very religious. He's saying his command. He's saying that he's alive and he speaks to us. And if you read the Bible, I guess that's why people say the Bible contradicts itself, is because they're so superficial, two-dimensional, that they're perceiving the word of God as something that's not alive. They're perceiving it as a religion. So they make it almost an idol. But the word of God is alive. And you'll read in the Bible that he tells each of us to do something different. And it's for each situation that we're in, so that he can be everywhere and handling all of those situations. So what he tells you to do in these troubled times for where you are, the people that you are with, and what he tells me to do for my assignment might be two completely different things. I can't just write down a scripture and say, this is what God told me to do, and then all of you do it too. Everybody do exactly what I'm doing. That's not how it works. We're all different parts of the body. Can you imagine if your heart decided to do what your lungs are supposed to do? Then who'd be pumping the blood? You'd instantly die. The whole body would die, not just you. So you need to be doing your function in the body. It's just like, the old gun debate. So some people are really religious about, oh no, God says, those who live by the sword die by the sword. But that was his instruction to Peter for that particular situation, because he did not want Peter to stop him from going to the crucifixion, because he knew the plan. Does that mean we should never defend the Lord? No, of course that's not what it means. But in that situation, he told Peter to stand down. He was going with them. And we see that a lot with Peter. The Lord will tell Peter in one situation, oh, you're blessed, when he says, who do you say that I am? And he says, you're the Messiah. And he tells Peter, you're very blessed because the Father has revealed that to you. Your flesh would not have said that. And then a little later down the road, when he's trying to explain the scriptures to them, that, for the Old Testament scriptures, that the Messiah must be sacrificed to set the Holy Spirit free in the world, that he has to give up the ghost for us so that we can embody the Holy Spirit and not just him. When he's trying to explain that to them, Peter's like, no, not so. I'll never let it happen. And he says, get thee behind me, Satan. So Jesus is talking about the spirits that flow through Peter. And two different situations called for two different commands from the Lord. One was good job, Peter, and the other one was wrong spirit, Peter. And we see the same thing with the weapons debate. In one situation, he tells Peter, no, put your sword down. But in another verse in the Bible, he sends people out on a mission after souls, and he says, sell your coat and buy a weapon. Right here. Then Jesus asked them, when I sent you out without purse or bag or sandals, did you lack anything? Nothing, they answered. Now, however, he told them, the one with a purse should take it, and likewise a bag. And the one without a sword should sell his cloak and buy one. So he's saying outright, this isn't just my interpretation for some sort of gun control debate. Jesus says right here There were times that I sent you out and told you to do one thing, but now I'm sending you out, I'm telling you to do another thing. This isn't about the scriptures contradicting. Surely you're deeper than that. Surely you're not that religious. If you are, you need to get that religious spirit off of you, because you need to obey the Lord day by day, and don't be like the Pharisees and reject the command of the Lord. Reject the commandment of God to keep your man-made traditions. This is no time for religion. You need to walk with God to be safe in these times. And you need to obey his commandment when it comes to you. That's the truth of the scriptures. It's not, and yes, we should keep the 10 commandments and all that. I get it. I'm not saying don't keep the 10 commandments or anything like that. Hey, religious spirit, get thee behind me, Satan. But I'm saying that the scriptures are talking about his commandment, his living word. He will give you commands, and you need to be ready to obey them on the spot, because it will bless you and everybody around you. And if the situation arises, it will save you, and it will save those around you. He is a savior. Okay, I'm done preaching. Let's look at some of these really intriguing theories. There's some really intriguing theories going around. But before we get to some of the more fringy stuff, which is every bit as important, maybe more, we'll start with the basic whistleblower doctor in China and compare their official narrative to what other insiders are saying and some mysterious disappearances and things like that.
Well, a doctor who was widely credited with being among one of the first people to raise the alarm over the coronavirus in China died yesterday, as we've been reporting, but reports of his death have been raising concerns about censorship in China.
Yes, Tokes, the death of Li Wenliang, a doctor in China, well, his news spread across Chinese social media. This is him pictured in hospital. He has been widely credited as one of the first people to blow the whistle on the spread of coronavirus within Wuhan. In December, he sent a message to fellow doctors on social media, warning them to wear protective clothing against the infection of what he called a SARS-like virus. Now, soon after this, he was accused of rumor-mongering by authorities in Wuhan, but he has now passed away from the virus. But the reporting over his death has been very confused. Let me try and break it down for you. It was initially issued by state media in China, like the Global Times and the People's Daily, that he had died at 9:30 p.m. local time. This news was met by people like the World Health Organization, who expressed their sadness, but they later clarified in a statement that they did not have clear information over his status. Soon after that, you had the Global Times, one of those medias we saw earlier. Well, they issued an update saying that actually he was still in a critical condition in Wuhan Central Hospital. Soon after that, the hospital themselves, well, they then did confirm the death of Dr. Li Wenliang at 2:58 in the morning, Friday local time. But you can see the reporting over this death. This has led to an outbreak of anger. Well, they say that just as the coronavirus continues to spread, so too will the censorship.
A new speculation from the Chinese scientists who believe it may have originated at a research facility not far from the Wuhan fish market. Amid the continued spread of the COVID-19 virus, there's rising speculation the virus could have originated from a government laboratory in Wuhan, rather than the widely held belief that it emerged from the city's Huanan seafood markets. Citing a report published by Chinese scientists, a Chinese-language newspaper published in Hong Kong, Mingpao, and the British daily The Mirror explained Sunday that the Wuhan Center for Disease Control, or WHCDC, could have spawned the contagion in Hubei province. According to the report penned by Bo Tao Xiao and Lei Xiao of the South China University of Technology, the research lab, which is only 280 meters away from the Huanan seafood market, kept disease-ridden animals, including more than 600 bats. Against such a backdrop, an article published by the Washington Times late last month is garnering attention as it raised the possibility that the disastrous outbreak could be the accidental result of biological weapons research. This comes as a renowned law professor at Tsinghua University in Beijing, Xu Jiangren, is known to be missing after publicly condemning Chinese President Xi Jinping. He even added the condemnation could be the last message of his life.
So there's an underground movement, a huge uproar in China, saying that the Chinese Communist government is covering something up and they wouldn't allow help to come in. And that's why I keep saying, do they know something that we don't know? Because the statistics that we see, the facts that we see, looking around just how many people are sick around us. Everything we see does not warrant this type of a response. So one of the theories is, do they know something we don't know? Is not only China's communist government covering up the truth, but are the other governments of the world covering up the truth? And one of the tidbits of circumstantial evidence that supports that theory is that all through January and February, the United States was offering aid, offering to help send scientists to study this, to get it under control. The CDC was trying to help with the coronavirus. And China, you can go, all these articles are dated, just go look it up. China would not let the CDC in the country to help. They would not let US scientists help. They wouldn't even accept aid. And during those times up through February, you can see the drastic change in our nation's response. People complained. They said, well, why isn't President Trump taking this seriously? So all of these press conferences were held before American scientists were allowed into that country. And then suddenly in February, our scientists are allowed in. They need help. They allow them in. And boom, our response changes from it's no big deal, everybody calm down, to everybody locked down. So that does, even though we weren't there in the briefings and we're not there in the lab coats and we don't really know anything that besides what they tell us, you can gauge the severity, you can gauge how seriously they're taking it by watching how the nations of the world have started reacting after they let the nations of the world in. And like you see from the clips that I just inserted here, even within their own country, scientists who tried to say this was a coronavirus, this was a SARS-like virus, and things like that, and people who stood up and said that the government was covering it up disappeared. That's what happens in communist countries. You know, it's that KGB-styled control system. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of that conspiracy theory. What do they know that we don't know? That all of the governments of the world are taking this so much more seriously than the information that they are releasing through the press releases to us. Is the zombie apocalypse upon us? What is this virus? And just because the first wave of this has very mild symptoms, when you're talking about these high morphine viruses, even the flu virus of 1918, the Spanish flu that wiped out so many people, its first wave was very mild. Go back and read the documents. When it started out in Kansas City, there were young guys, they just had, you know, flu-like symptoms, mild flu-like symptoms, no big deal. But it was during wartime. Remember, that was World War I, 1917, kicked off World War I, and it just spread like wildfire through these very contained, they were crammed together on ships, and they were crammed together in barracks, and they all ate and, you know, crammed together in these places. And so when it spread overseas in the trenches, that was trench warfare during that time, and it was incredibly unsanitary. They would have to eat there, sleep there, use the bathroom there. Remember, that's where we even get the term trench foot, because these men who lived in these trenches, their feet would start to rot off in their boots while they were alive. Because when it rained and it drained right into those trenches, they couldn't just get out of the trenches and be blown up. They had to stay hiding in those trenches. And when it rained, then all of that stuff from the bodies that were up on the field and from the feces and stuff where they had gone to the bathroom would all wash right back down on them. And it was at that point that the virus really morphed into something super infectious. And the next wave, when these soldiers were bringing it back to the United States, was way worse. Even in these places who had these draconian measures in place and had escaped the first wave with fewer fatalities, the next wave hit them just as hard. And we need to keep that in mind with coronavirus. It's in the world. It's in the world now. You're going to get it. It's the new flu virus. What they're trying to manage is the hospitals being overrun. They're trying to, like they say, lower that curve so that we can produce what we need to produce. We can produce vaccines. We can manufacture the medical supplies we'll need and all of that type of thing. That if we handle it just a few thousand at a time, you know, it'll run its course. But what we're doing, there's nothing you can do. We could all be quarantined till the end of time, and it's not going to take this virus out of the world. This new invisible enemy is now in this world with us. That's a fact. And again, bioweapons, you think it's a coincidence that even all the way back during World War I, that this virus was released exactly at the beginning of World War I? And here we are again at the beginning of World War III, and then this happens. And there are lots of just strange coincidences, if you will, that happened in China also that are being attributed to the cover-up, like the quarantine hotel where they were keeping all of those patients, over 70 patients. It just collapses down with the patients inside, collapses on them. And of course, the whole time that we are trying to send help and aid and scientists, and they're refusing it, and they won't even let the World Health Organization or the CDC or anybody in, and they're engaged in all this cover-up. In their state-run media in China, their president is broadcasting that, oh, the United States won't even help. See what they've done to us and all of that. And, you know, which isn't surprising because even here, our communist mainstream media they're broadcasting the same exact propaganda. They're like, he isn't doing enough to stop this. We need more control, more. And this news report talks about how China is using an app to track quarantined citizens. But in the report, there's an interview with a gentleman who had his, you know, they're already in a surveillance society over there, and they have all the facial recognition going and everything. They have the social credit scores, and they are under communist control already. And so they don't have any rights that the state says they don't have. And this gentleman was talking about how he was tagged. And he talks about the struggle to try to get somebody to correct that error, which I thought really plays into the mark of the beast, where it says nobody can buy or sell. Nobody will be allowed to buy or sell without the mark of the beast. And, you know, that you guys know we've done tons of videos on that. But this news report shows, you know, just how easy it is once they have us all in this digital surveillance society to turn us off. Whether it's right or wrong, or they say it's an accident, but you know, at that point, I'm sure it won't be. It'll just be, you'll be blacklisted and you'll be turned off and you won't be allowed to participate in society. And that's what happened to this gentleman.
And a restriction on social gatherings countrywide will be lifted. But what about the new surveillance techniques introduced to curb the spread? In Hangzhou, to enter a tower block, you need to have your temperature taken and registered. And you must have an app on your phone into which you input your name, temperature, recent travel and ID number. The information generates a color code.
In Hangzhou, to go out of the community or to public activities, you need to have a green code. This green, yellow or red code is automatically decided through the system. It uses big data to decide whether you've been to affected districts or come into contact with those people.
It's just so wild. It's just so amazing that they just talk about it matter-of-factly. Hey, here's your new app. To us, it seems like a dystopian movie, you know, like The Captive State, or all of these movies about districts where they're like, if you come into contact with these dissidents, or your tracking device shows that you've been to this area, then your chip will be changed from code green to code red. And just the fact that they talk about it openly. I mean, we all know that we're being tracked and we're in a total surveillance society, but now it's the externalization of the hierarchy. So they're just like, hey, here's your app. It's a government mandate that you install it on your phone. And of course, we've been warning about this since we saw the Obama phone program, which what they call Lifeline, something like that. The Obama phones, that he was going to make sure everybody had a tracking device. I mean, a phone. because it was a big problem. Implementing these tracking devices, these tracking apps that color code everybody. You know, we talk about our mailboxes being marked. You're on the red list, you're on the blue list for when that day comes, things like that. But they've known this technology has been in the works a long, long time. And one of the major problems with implementing it for a full control system was that so many people didn't have phones, that lower income families could not afford to give everybody a phone. So they had all of these people who weren't in the system, who couldn't be tracked. So, of course, they sold it to the masses that, oh, you know, he's just that kind of guy, right? He's just passing out free phones. And it worked. A lot of the minority groups, they thought this guy was just blessing them. They had no idea that it was part of getting them under the thumb of control. And more than 20 million Americans have already received a free Obama phone. So please don't be deceived. The communists don't give you free phones because they love you and they want you to talk to your girlfriend all night. They give you free phones because when the time comes, just like this, they're going to make it mandatory that we download certain apps for our own safety, of course, and the safety of others.
But what if you're well and get a red code anyway? This man says he's self-isolated while visiting Anhui province near Wuhan and back home in Shanghai. But there's no way to challenge the technology.
Our office building here, you need to register. You need to show the code to demonstrate that you're healthy. So when I was red, there was no way I could go to the office and work. I didn't do anything. Then after 2 or 3 days, I looked and suddenly it was green. I don't know why, but I think that although it's not really reasonable, it is still a preventative measure.
But few know exactly how their data is being used.
We actually looked at the back-end code that the app was running, and what you could see is the moment that a user gives it permission to access data, it immediately sends a function that says report info and location to police. And then we looked into it, and the police were a key developer of the product as well. And so from that you can tell that the data is basically being sent back to the police the moment somebody actually uses the app.
So I hope that you can see that when we talk about a police state, and we talk about martial law being implemented and things like that, we're not just crazy conspiracy theorists. We're trying to tell people the truth and warn them.
I'm not an expert, but if the government says this is useful, I believe them.
A Chinese company has now developed facial recognition technology that works even if you're wearing a mask. The epidemic has enabled the Chinese authorities to normalize digital social control, something they're unlikely to relinquish.
Well, now, earlier I spoke to the lawyer Nuri Turkel, who is from the Uyghur community, more than 1 million of whom are currently being held in camps by the Chinese authorities. I began by asking him how the coronavirus is affecting the Uyghur people.
We're talking about unthinkable casualties.
Because 1 million Uyghurs are
at least
detained in that
United States government estimates anywhere from 2 million to 3 million Uyghurs and other Turkic Muslim being detained in modern-day concentration camps. So, to this day, World Health Organization or other international entities were not granted access to the camps to make sure that at least there's a health care.
You believe that, in fact, it is more than simply monitoring the health conditions of the people?
The Chinese government, before the current crisis started, the health crisis, virus crisis started, they already monitoring every aspect of Uyghur lives. So any movement, every movement that you made, even your door at your house has a QR code.
But this is reaching out beyond Uyghurs. This is anybody in the affected areas can be issued with this app.
So this country has already been deeply surveilled, and this new app is adding another layer for the Chinese government, Xi Jinping's China, to monitor their own citizens.
And what you're saying about this app is that the medical crisis that is confronting China is actually enabling them at the same time to deeply penetrate digitally the activities of every Chinese citizen.
Right, that's exactly right. And also it's serving the political purposes of the state. There are about 18 countries around the world, including Germany, surprisingly, already looking into the Chinese way of surveilling its own citizens, to make sure that there's no political upheaval cooking up.
So as mind-blowing as it sounds, we really could literally be the generation that has to say no to the mark of the beast, that has to have the courage to stand up and say no, because this is the first time that all of these puzzle pieces have come together. We see that when the cabal had their figureheads in charge in our nation, they were able to push through the health care bill, and they were able to distribute the infrastructure and the technology through the Obama phones. They got a lot done in setting this thing up. And now here we are, next wave, China unleashes this virus, and all of a sudden, hey, you know, we can't be using cash, dirty money. We have to have this cashless society. It's time, you know, cash is passé anyway, and it could be counterfeited. It's time to just do away with that, and we'll have our digital society. And this particular choice of strategy is so diabolical. And they've obviously had it in mind the whole time, because they didn't come at us the way we thought they were coming. Instead, they wrote their tyrannical dictatorship into a healthcare bill, which all of a sudden, you know, when we think about mandatory vaccinations, they're telling us for this herd safety, the safety of the herd, that you guys know, you know it's coming, you know it is. But now we see all these puzzle pieces coming together. Oh, the free phones. Oh, the healthcare bill. Oh, the mandatory vaccinations. Oh, the 2020 ID. Oh, like it's all coming together right now. And when we talk about the mark of the beast technology, we're talking about being prohibited from buying and selling. And I know I've bumped into a lot of people, religious people, and they've said to me, no, the mark of the beast it's something spiritual. No, it's not. It's all about commerce, not right? Revelation 13:17, so that they could not buy or sell unless they had the mark. So we absolutely are talking about a technology like that gentleman in China just said. They just, from the flick of a switch, turned him from code green to code red, and he couldn't work. He couldn't buy or sell. He was shut down. So it's really diabolical that, you know, they could use a virus and achieve so many, talk about multitasking. They could achieve so many things with just a virus. Everything from forcing you to let the government inject things into your own body with mandatory vaccinations, or 2020 ID, or cashless society, or even closing the churches. They're closing the churches. I mean, think about it. We were expecting something like you see in communist China, or the more traditional means of persecution that we're used to, you know, how China's burning Bibles and closing churches and, you know, that type of thing. But instead, overnight, they've closed all the churches.
Spiritual, faith-based.
All right, we've got this breaking news. Rome's Catholic churches have now been ordered to close, all of them, because of the coronavirus. This is a move believed to be unprecedented in modern times.
In Boston, church services canceled.
They've forbidden people to even gather. You can't even gather outside of a church because they've got us in isolation, social isolation, right? Which again takes us full circle back to what the last few videos have been on about the DMT dimensions and the neural implants and the disassociation from certain frequencies and linking our consciousness through this massive worldwide web. So now they're normalizing social isolation, you know, telling us it's terrible to be around people. You can't, ooh, you don't want to do that. You want to completely isolate from other people. You know, it's not good enough that they've turned us all against each other, Republican against Democrat, gay against straight, man against woman, millennials against baby boomers, black against white. You know, they divided us every way. They've broken up the nuclear family, so there's not a support network anywhere, you know, where we have the strength in numbers. That's not good enough. Now we have to completely isolate from all humans. And of course, all of the celebrities are on their soapboxes telling us how, you know, wonderful that is, that we should even isolate from our own families. We just have to do it. It's our responsibility. In fact, here's Lady Gaga, everybody's, you know, American Idol, their idol that they worship, telling them that, yes, they should not be around their own parents and grandparents.
Lady Gaga urged her little monsters to stay at home too, posting, "I wish I could see my parents and grandmas right now, but it's much safer to not."
So I get it. We know all the world's a stage. It just gets sickening, you know. They even finally cancel the Grammys and the Oscars and all of these award shows where the stars get up there and tell us all how to live from their ivory towers.
Let them eat cake.
And still, they can't stop. They just can't stop themselves. So they're telling us through Instagram and Twitter and everything.
Hollywood is virtually shut down as the stars self-isolate.
Hilary Duff spoke out after seeing many heading to bars and restaurants over the weekend.
To all you young millennial assholes that keep going out and partying, go home. Stop killing old people, please. Stop killing old people, please. Stop killing old people, please.
Dr. Dorian, is it helpful, you think, when celebrities post about themselves quarantining and things like that? I think so.
It's not only helpful, it should be like a public duty.
And you know, it's really funny because I always talk about their sloppy propaganda, because you guys know how it is when if you've ever known a liar, like an habitual liar in real life, they lie so much that they always tangle themselves up and you're like, but I thought you said, and then they make up another lie to cover that one up. And so it never makes sense. Well, that's what their propaganda scheme is like, because they lie. So here we have the mainstream media telling us constantly, there just aren't enough tests. There are desperately ill people flooding the hospitals and, you know, they're in emergency rooms and we don't have enough tests. Why isn't President Trump doing more to make sure there are tests? And then we have the celebrities on all of the media outlets going on there saying, yeah, I had a test. I didn't have any symptoms at all. I'm not sick at all. But I got a test. So why are there all these tests available for all these people who don't have any symptoms and aren't sick? How come they got access to all these tests if there aren't enough tests for the sick people?
I got some test results back for coronavirus and it came back positive.
Idris Elba reveals he has tested positive for coronavirus after experiencing no symptoms.
I didn't have any symptoms.
Meanwhile, Kris Jenner has tested negative for coronavirus, who was not displaying any symptoms, wanted to make sure she was being proactive in getting tested.
Utah Jazz star Donovan Mitchell is also in isolation after he tested positive in the virus scare that postponed the NBA season. Tell me about Donovan Mitchell.
Here's the alarming thing about this virus. What we're realizing with this is there's a lot of people who don't have symptoms and are actual carriers. The key is that's why we're social distancing.
Because people are looking around. Like I started this video out talking about the facts. It would be really rare statistically that you would run into somebody with coronavirus. I know all the world leaders have it, right? And all the celebrities have it. But if you look at the actual statistics, 5,000 people in our nation of 350, 360, 380 million people, and 5,000 have it. The odds of you actually knowing one of those people, I don't know how many millions of people you're friends with, but the odds of you actually knowing any of those people, knowing somebody who has coronavirus, it's really slim statistically. So people are starting to sort of wake up and look at, you know, it's worn off. The initial sort of panic phase is starting to wear off, and they're looking around and they're going, wait, I don't know anybody that I don't see any with my own eyes. I don't see hide nor hair of a coronavirus. I don't see anybody with a coronavirus. I don't see all of these flooded hospitals full of coronavirus victims. I don't know anybody who has it. I work in a hospital and I don't know anybody who has it. I haven't seen anybody in our area who tested positive for it. So to combat that, they start putting this out. All the world's a stage. They start having their actors come forward and putting posts out that, oh, well, we don't have any symptoms. That's why we have to be locked down. That's exactly why. Now you're getting it, is because everybody has it and they're just not sick. It's like, but wait, I thought you said this was so deadly, that we had to be locked down. If it's a virus that doesn't make people sick, then what's the worry? That's like locking people down for toenail fungus. What's the problem here? So they're starting to get sort of tangled up in their, mess of propaganda. I know that the excuse they always give us why there's no test shortage for the ruling class. If you're a politician or a celebrity or an elitist, you have access to all the test kits you need. But I know that their common excuse is, these people came into contact with somebody. So even though they don't have any symptoms and they're not sick, they get the tests first. Which really should amaze us, how many of the elitists are surrounded by infected people infected with the coronavirus. It's like every celebrity, every politician, every world leader is just soaked in people that have tested positive for the coronavirus, although it's so rare in the world. 0.0000% of the world population has this. But the elitists are all surrounded by people who are affected. So, hey, maybe we should throw all the elitists in isolation, quarantine them in like Gitmo or something, so we can be safe, because apparently all of the infected people are in their circles, and contain the infection that, is obviously rampant amongst them. I think for our own good, we should quarantine them for the good of all. Right? I'm just kidding. I'm just pointing out that I know what they say. I know what their excuses are, why all of them got first dibs in the nation on all of the test kits. You don't have to arrogantly troll me. I know what they say. I'm just saying I don't believe half the shit they say. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I don't believe hardly anything they say. They're like walking teleprompters. Every single word out of their mouth is specifically crafted for an agenda. But clearly part of the agenda is pushing us into this, next phase of humanity, this transhumanism movement, and becoming human 2.0. They say out of their own mouths that the traditional human will become obsolete. So they're forcing us, they're herding us like sheep. They're forcing us to relinquish, to let go of the old concept of human interaction and carry on your life in their Internet of Things instead. It's just another part of programming us, socially engineering us. It's classical conditioning. So that's what we're seeing. From the communists, from the celebrities, from the mainstream media, from the politicians, over and over and over again. Human interaction bad, internet good. They want us to understand sooner than later that we will work online, we will do our schooling online, we will do our shopping online. There won't be stores. They're closing the stores. There will be no more mom and pop shops. All distribution will come through their distribution network that they have set up in every city. And that's what I'm talking about, funneling into the Walmart distribution center, the Amazon distribution centers. This is communism at the biggest scale. They think they've really done it this time. It's failed. It's been a failed experiment every single time up until now. But they think they've got it. They think they've got it figured out this time. This is how you do your rations. This is how you handle distribution. And this is how you control every thought and every move of the masses. I'm sure you guys noticed that they rolled this out long before the crisis, air quotes implied, how Walmart had changed over all of their parking lots to where they reserved all of these spots for people who would grocery shop online, and then you just sit in your car and punch in your number on the app and they bring the groceries out to you. And it's all the front row parking. And here everybody, it didn't catch on. It never caught on. Everybody just got mad, like, man, how come now we got to park 60 miles away from the store and these are always empty? I mean, look, this is pictures of the actual parking lot. Nobody's ever there. It didn't catch on. So we were like, why, man, why are they doing all this infrastructure change? I mean, people liked the Walmart shopping online, but they'll just have it, we just have it shipped to us. If we want to go to the store and get out of the house and have human interactions, then we go to Walmart. We'll do our other grocery shopping there ourselves. So this just didn't really catch on. And then boom, this happens. Now these spots are all full because nobody wants to be around crowds. Instead, they're doing their shopping online and they pull up here and they punch the button and they bring out their rations. And go on right now, test it. Go on the Walmart site, on the grocery shopping site, and see if it's rationed. You don't get to just grocery shop like you would inside the store. If you wanted 10 cans of corn, you go in the store and get 10 cans of corn, but not with this new system. So you can just try anything. They're all rationed. Every single item is rationed. So we'll see how many carrots we can have. 2. I think bananas. We get more bananas. They don't sell those 2 at a time. I think you can have 5 or 6 bananas. Yeah, 6. Wonder how many loaves of bread I can have. 2. See how many frozen pizzas I can have. Like normally I would go and I would put them in my deep freeze. That's why we have deep freezes. 2. So anyway, the point is, here's the system. Now we know why they did all of this. It's just like the drive-through coronavirus testing. It's like the restaurants being shut down to the drive-throughs. They're moving us, their steering committees, their social engineering, they are moving us in a direction. And all of this infrastructure was built out when nobody was even using it and nobody even wanted it. But now we know why. We saw them sitting empty in all of our towns and all the Walmarts all this time, and now they're full because people don't want to go inside and be around the crowds. All it took was one little virus scare and people have changed over. They don't care about the rations. They're like, I'll just take the loss of freedom. I'll just change over to the ration system and I will just come here and sit in my car and press the button and they will give me my rations and I'll go home. Good enough. So it all works together. This is the first time we've seen all of these agendas coming to pass, all the puzzle pieces coming together at the very same time, and we can have some clarity in seeing the big picture. And again, I'm not saying that this wave that we're in right now is the final wave, but surely this is enough to wake people up who we've all been trying to reason with forever, that are like, no, the status quo, it's just going to be status quo forever. If changes happen, we'll see them coming a mile away because it'll be a slow progress. When we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. Well, you know what? The bridge fell in our lap overnight. So we've got to cross it now. And seeing all of this come together right now is giving me some clarity on 3 different visions that I was given forever ago. 15 years ago, I think one was 5 years ago. I'm not one of those people who has prophetic dreams or visions every night or anything. I get them, rarely, like maybe once every 5 years or every couple of years, I'll have one of those profound experiences, or if I need a major course correction. So because these 3 prophetic dreams and visions were given to me at different times in my life, I didn't really piece together that they were all different portions of the same event, like happening in chronological order. So this first one, you can see I posted this back in 2016, so 4 years ago, long before what we're talking about now with Walmart. And one of the things that I saw in the vision that didn't make sense to me was that all of the stores were closed. but we were still allowed to. There just weren't very many people around. Nobody was out on the streets or anything, but I was in the back of one of these closed stores. They'd all been converted into different things. And it was me, and it was an ex-business owner that owned the business next door that was closed. They were actually working on a car behind the business, and a young guy. And the weird thing about the dream is he was talking about Walmart still being open and that his mother worked at Walmart. And he could not get her to believe that this was the end of the age. She kept saying, no, it's going to turn around. Things are going to go back to normal. And I'm like, how could you possibly think that? The life as we knew it was over. The only thing open was Walmart and I think McDonald's for distribution of goods. Everything else was gone. There was there were no businesses open. And if you go back and watch this video, I'll put the links to these. I'll dig out these 3 old videos and put the links below in case you're interested. You can see that my interpretation then and my interpretation now differ, that I had no idea what I'm saying right now. But I believe in the light of what we know now, that this will be something like, I'm not saying this time, again, I'm not saying that what we're seeing right now is like it's just going to go fast down a slippery slope and this is it. This is what we've been waiting for. This is the end. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying clearly it's going to be an event just like this, and clearly it's going to come like a thief in the night. It's going to come out of nowhere. When the Black Awakening happens, they're going to launch it, and that's going to be it. And I'm not saying that this isn't it. This could be the beginning of it. This could be the beginning of the launch of the Black Awakening. I don't know. My own sense is that this is the drill. This is the conditioning but it's coming soon. It's coming very, very soon. But I could be wrong. I'm just a person. That's not a word from the Lord I have that this isn't it. I'm just telling you my opinion. That's how I feel. That this is more the beta test. They're testing us to see how far along we are. Will we go willingly? And you can see we have. We have done every single thing they said. Even if the facts don't bear out, all of the stuff that we're seeing happen around us, all of the government mandates and stuff, it didn't have to make sense. It didn't have to. All they had to do was broadcast it, and they could move us and manipulate us through fear to do every single thing they wanted us to do and to go willingly. And I don't know how far this will go. They may even, now that the first vaccines are in test trials right now, it was just today, wasn't it? Earlier today, they had the first human test trial of the vaccine that they've created for this. So we'll see if they'll keep tightening the noose and pushing us to see how far they can push us. We'll see if they'll start talking mandatory vaccinations. I'm watching this thing closely. I know it could go south at any moment. So, and I will do updates as long as they allow us. If I see something that concerns me or I get a word from the Lord about it, I will absolutely continue to do updates. My opinion might change 5 days from now, depending on how much more they tighten the noose, or how much they loosen it, or something that I see, or something that I receive in a dream or a vision. My opinion could change at any time. I'm watching closely. So nothing is set in stone. I'm just telling you my feelings on this issue at this present time with the amount of information that I have at this present time. Okay, so the next one is on a different page. Let me see. Well, I think I put it in this one. I think I put it in another one too. But in this one, the high watch times. A lot of people have seen attacks around the holidays, and my vision that I added to this seemed to be an attack around an election. And I thought that fit in, because in an election year, the election is in November, and then you have Thanksgiving and Black Friday and Christmas. But now, especially in hindsight, when this is the New York Times right here, they're already kicking around the idea, or people are talking about, could the 2020 election be postponed or canceled? Because it's a reality that elections are being postponed right now. Ohio governor calls for primary election to be delayed. Election judge would like to see Illinois primary postponed amid the coronavirus. Georgia, Louisiana postponed primaries over the coronavirus concerns. So again, it shines new light on a possibility of an interpretation for that dream, why people could be rioting. I already suspected they would riot if Trump got reelected anyway. They would lose their minds. But there was more to this dream. That was just one part. The riots were just the beginning of a bigger part. The vision was epic. Okay, and here's the last one. But it started out with those riots in the street. People were resisting the curfews and stuff, and they were coming out of their homes and they were throwing things at the police. And then it escalated to martial law. And then I was peeking out of my curtain, and we were all in our houses, and I wouldn't go outside, and I was peeking out of my curtain, and that's when the military vehicles started coming in and parking block by block by block and going house to house and locking it down. So it went from the riots and resisting the curfews and stuff to martial law. They were forcibly containing us. Now, if you go back and watch this video, this is 2015. This is 5 years ago I posted this. You'll see that I didn't relate it to a virus crisis at all, because I wasn't shown that in the dream. It just picked up that something had happened. So that's how I explain it throughout the video, is something had happened and we were locked down. It never occurred to me that it was a quarantine. Martial law obviously occurred to me, but it never occurred to me that it would be a medical issue. But now, like I said, hindsight's 2020. No pun intended. 2020. But just now, right now, in 2020, out of nowhere, you can see all of these different places around our nation and other nations are instituting curfews. Right here is an article from CBS, coronavirus update, curfews, closures put in place as confirmed cases in New Jersey grow to 267. That's 32 minutes ago. 200 people in their state, and they're instituting curfews, locking it down. Colombia imposes citywide coronavirus curfew starting at 11 p.m. Wednesday. So that starts tomorrow. Latin American countries fighting coronavirus spread with military and curfews. So, I mean, is that not reminiscent of what I was shown? What I posted here on this very channel 5 years ago? Military enforcing curfews, people being kept in their homes. Now, we're not to the riot stage. People aren't rioting about being locked down in their homes because it's only been a few days. Now, I don't know if we'll feel the same way a month from now. You know, like I said, we got to keep a close eye on this and an open mind. But what was also super interesting about this was, one, that the Chinese soldiers or Asian soldiers were in charge of, we eventually ended up in a work camp. And how that happened was we were allowed to have our phones and our devices, encouraged, in fact, to have them for the emergency broadcast system and all of that, but we weren't allowed to use our internet, or I guess it's not that we weren't allowed, like physically prohibited, but we were monitored. Everything, every website we visited, everything we visited, we were monitored. So I remember sitting, I had internet in the house still and power, but I remember sitting at the computer and we were looking something up, and I remember saying, no, do not click on that, because we'll, you know, they'll come for us. And so we knew not to visit certain websites. And then finally, after months of being in quarantine, I decided to try and call out down to see how my family was doing. I was living in a major city up north when this happened. In fact, I was given this vision because I was praying to God, should I sell my house and get out of these big cities and go to a rural area? And it was after praying that prayer that I had this vision, which was epic, lasted all night. I got up in the middle of the night, went to the bathroom, went back to bed, went right back into it. But anyway, it was exactly like that news clip that I just played earlier about that Chinese man using his phone to post on social media, and then he disappears. It was exactly like that. I used my phone for unauthorized purposes. I was trying to call home to get a hold of my family and my parents to let them know that we were still alive and we were okay. It was right after I used my phone to try to call an unauthorized number, then they came and they loaded us up, the whole family. And we were on a white bus and with other families, and there were armed Asian guards in khaki uniforms. And it seemed more like the environment didn't seem like the type of military invasion that you would think of. It had more the feel of like UN peacekeeping forces. But at the same time, everybody knew. Everybody knew it wasn't just we were in quarantine and there were curfews and stuff, that this was a good situation. Everybody knew that this thing had gone way south, way fast. So in light of what we're all seeing right now, I wanted to bring this up again. Again, I will put all of these links below. And if this thing right now is not a slippery slope where we slip into it and this is the event and God blesses us with a little more time and we'll be released from our captivity before the second wave of this virus hits, then we need to be doing all that we can do for the Lord, because this should be a wake-up call. They closed the churches overnight. What does the Bible say? Work while there is yet day, because night is coming when no man will be allowed to work. So this isn't the time for us to be cowering in the corner saying, oh, I'm so glad I stocked some flour. No, this is the time for us to be shining brightest. This is precisely why we put up enormous 60-foot billboards on the United States interstates telling people a storm is coming. Are you ready? A storm is coming. Are you ready? Hashtag Jesus. You know, while the cabal has been setting up their infrastructure and everything this whole time, God has been setting up his kingdom, which will be eternal. Theirs is coming down at the end of this battle of Armageddon, but ours is eternal. So we've been setting up ours too. We did this also many months ago. Just like Walmart started setting up all of their parking places before the event sprung, we also started getting ready for the harvest. And now they will listen to us. There's going to be so many people that are going to say, oh, I've driven past that so many times, but a storm is coming and now this. I wonder what they're saying. I wonder what they're talking about on there. And they might actually listen to us. They might actually hear us now. Now that everything else is turned off, the distractions are gone. They won't spend 4 hours watching a hockey game, watching grown men hit a little puck back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Maybe they'll spend 4 hours listening to something that might save their lives and save their souls. March Madness is gone. It's been canceled. I mean, there's plenty of madness this March, but they're not going to be spending their time on these distractions, on this bread and circus that they have put in front of us. All of these ball games, it's all been canceled. The races have been canceled. Everything's been canceled. So maybe now they will have time to listen to something else, to watch something else. Now is not the time to retreat. This is our time. Now is the time to charge, to take the ground for Christ, to be here for the hurting and the hopeless and the scared, to be here with the answers that they are looking for. This is our time.
No retreat!
This is what Jesus himself said in Mark 4:21 through 23. He said to them, "Do you bring in a lamp to put it under a bowl or a bed? Instead, don't you put it on its stand?" Luke 11:33. No one lights a lamp and puts it in a place where it will be hidden or under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand so that those who come in may see the light. You see, we've been preaching every video just about. You can go and see. I've been trying to prepare the hearts of people to let them know that that the Great Awakening is going to happen simultaneously with the Great Tribulation. We are going to see some stuff, and that's because God is going to have to use the rude awakening tactic for those that we couldn't wake up, that we couldn't just shake, "Hey, wake up, it's time to get up." Like, that didn't work on them. So we still have some work to do. And it's starting to trouble me because I've seen a lot of, everybody shutting off their donations and shutting off. And right now, God's put us here to shine our light. Like, now's the time. And don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about, there are people who have to stop because, people are losing their jobs and they have to get supplies for their families and stuff. And absolutely, by all means, that is your responsibility in the kingdom of heaven. God has sprinkled us salt. He told us be salt and light. He has sprinkled us all over the world. And your mission field is your family first. Family, it goes out like a nuclear explosion. You start with your own family and your community where he has placed you. That's the post you're supposed to stand. So if you're doing that, in lieu of contributing to these national movements or international movements that we're working on, God bless you. Absolutely. That is your priority. So please don't take this wrong. The people I'm talking to are the people who have massive resources, who have plenty of resources, and have locked down out of fear. They're taking part in the world. God did not give us a spirit of fear. Those are the people that I'm talking to, or even the people who have never contributed to anything having anything to do with the harvest of souls or serving the Lord Jesus Christ. They've spent their money on, hockey jerseys and stuff like that. Maybe you could listen right now, because we need resources pouring into the kingdom to do this. They sort of shut down after the first billboard. This stuff, they don't give this stuff away. That's why the elitists are the elitists, because they pour their money into marketing and advertising and all of that. They know how to reach the public, but we do too, but we need the resources to do that. So please don't be governed by fear. Be governed by the Lord Jesus Christ. So if you're one of those people who has resources, who God has blessed with resources, he has chosen, it says he's distributed amongst the body. Some people have the financial resources. Other people have the gift of prophecy. Other people are our military men. God has placed everybody in their positions. So that's who I'm talking to. If you are led by the Holy Spirit to contribute to this, now is the time to do it. Now's not the time to stop. We just got started. This thing just started. No one lights a lamp and puts it in a place where it will be hidden. God didn't put us here. If you're here now and you're in the body of Christ, he's put you on a stand so that those who come in may see your light. This is our time to rise and shine, not our time to hide in our basements with 25-year shelf life food. We should do all that. We should have been well prepared by now. My Lord, how much notice do you need? We've been saying this for a while. God gave Noah 100-year notice to build the ark, and he's done the same for us. We've had our parents before us started telling us this was coming. And I know I myself have been 20 years trying to wake up as many as I possibly could. So I pray to God that you guys don't abandon the mission now. Either way, I'm going for the souls. I'm going for the win. I'm not going to abandon the mission. I am not going to cower in fear. I am not afraid. Like those verses we read earlier where Jesus said, yeah, take your purse and take your weapon, take all this stuff on your journey that I'm telling you now. But remember when I sent you out last time and I told you don't even take a pair of sandals? Don't even take your purse with you. He said, did you lack anything? No. No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're in the stockpile or if you're with your bug out bag. God's got you. You have a mission to do. I have a mission to do. Hopefully, I can help you in some way. Hopefully, I can help you. If your mission is in your community, that's why I have this on the screen. This is one of the new things. Instead of just the cards, the hashtag Jesus cards, these two styles, now we have two more styles that I've made for college campuses because they have an aversion. They see the hashtag Jesus and they won't take a card. So now we've got these two more styles of cards, and it's still the same thing. Every one of my videos, everything I do is about and for Jesus Christ. So it's not that, you're not going to lift up the name of Jesus. Here it is. No. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in the front door. I'm going to go in the side door. I'm going to go in the back door. I'm going to climb in a window. I'm going to get in this house that's burning down, and I'm going to get every soul out that I can, however I can. And if this is a way that I can get a college kid to pick up a card and listen to us, I'm going to try it. We need to know our targets. Wise as serpents and harmless as doves. We are dealing with a society that has been brainwashed since they popped out of the womb to hate Jesus, to mock Jesus. They don't even know why, but they are repelled because they've been told Jesus is banned. That shouldn't even be in college. You shouldn't. Oh, you're haters. They see Jesus. Oh, you're one of those haters. Well, you know what? I can go in and put this poster up on the bulletin boards in the university areas right next to the LGBT conference poster, and nobody gets offended. And they'll take the card. The New Agers, they'll take the card. I'm trying to lead people to Jesus Christ, as many as we can, as fast as we can. That's my mission. So anyway, I have about 50 of these posters, and you can see there's these little acrylic card holders that they peel and stick right on the bottom of the poster on the bulletin boards, and then you put the stack of cards right there, so you don't have to go around passing them out or putting them on windshields, which is great too, but you can put them right there. I put these posters in all of the laundromats, in like the downtown grocery store, a lot of them in the entryways. There at our grocery store, it goes into two parts. There's like a gym on one side, and the other side goes into the IGA, and in the middle is like this big, huge double bulletin board. All the community puts up their posters and flyers and stuff there. Of course, now the gyms are closed. But like I said, I believe that God's going to give us some more time. Please pray for that. We need more time, you guys. We need some more time. Anyway, I have about 50 of these sets left, all of it, and I will ship them out for free to anybody who wants to take part in this. So hopefully I can bless your community. I can help you bless your family and communicate with them. Maybe you have college kids who are lost, or maybe you are a college kid who has friends that you love and you can't reach them. Please, if you think this will work in your situation, in your community, in your university, whatever, contact me, email me, XtremeRealityCheck@yahoo.com. There's no E on it, just starts with an X. It's down below in the description box always. And I will send this, the whole setup, the poster, the stack of cards, the acrylic thing. It'll all come in like a long sort of poster box. And it's all free. The shipping's free. Everything's free. Please, but please also please don't ask for these just to like hang up in your bedroom or something. Please only ask for these if you really are going to put them up somewhere. And I only say that because resources are slim right now. Hopefully more people will contribute, but it costs me money to print all of these posters and to have the cards printed and to buy the card holders and to pay all the shipping and stuff. So if I'm going to be sending them out, I really want to make sure that they're going to somebody who really wants to use them for the mission. maybe in the future we'll have tons of resources, and then I would love to just send them out just like candy. I would love to just pass them out to anybody and everybody and leave them in stacks everywhere. I mean, that would be my dream. But right now I work really hard for the money, and I can't work any harder. And now with this lockdown, I've lost one of my jobs already. So I'm just saying, please, if you're going to request one, I'm going to send it one way or another. So, I just ask that you're serious about it. That's not going to be laying on your bedroom dresser for the next 6 months. And it doesn't have to be a common area at a university that has a bulletin board. And it doesn't even have to be young people. One of the places I put them is we have a cafe here in town, or not in this town, but a town over, that everybody goes to. And they have an entryway where the bathrooms are, and they have a great big bulletin board for, community flyers and stuff. And that's mostly older people and middle-aged people that go in there. So anywhere that you have in mind that I trust you. I trust you. If you have somewhere you think that it might reach lost souls, please ask. I will send them until they're gone. And hopefully people will contribute resources, and we can just print more, and we can just keep reaching and reaching and reaching the lost wherever they may be, as long as we have. And hopefully, like I said, pray to God. Pray to God for mercy and grace, that he allows us a little more time to reach the lost. And actually, you might say in the email which one you prefer. I'll end up sending whatever I have until the last ones are gone. But if you have one that you prefer over the other, please request it so I don't have to send multiples to everybody. Or if you have multiple locations at a university, someplace that's high traffic, then ask for multiples. Work with me on this mission, and I'll do all I can. Likewise, I have posters coming, 20 of each. Posters coming for the hashtag Jesus cards. Right now, I will send all styles of cards, even the hashtag Jesus cards, that you can replace and refill these card holders. So you can use all of the different cards in these displays, but I will have hashtag Jesus posters that match the billboards. A storm is coming, are you ready? Billboards, and they will be the same setup, but they will have the hashtag Jesus cards. So if you want to get on the list for those, hopefully the mail's still running. I just got a message. I haven't had time to vet it and see if it's true, but someone just popped up a message saying that Amazon had suspended shipments. And I've been kind of looking, how long is the mail going to be running? Are they going to close down the United States Postal Service? I don't know. I doubt it. I do doubt it, but nothing would surprise me at all. But as long as the mail's running, I'm going to be sending this stuff out so we can reach as many people as we can. And even when I run out of posters, I still have the cards. And you guys who have got the card packs right up till the last few days, I'm sending all 4 styles of cards now in every single pack. And if you got lost in that weird email inbox thing where they stacked all of my emails in like a spam folder, I'm still trying to sort all that out, and I'm still doing keyword searches in my own inbox, in my own mailbox, to find those, and I'm still finding them. I found 3 or 4 just this last shipment that were from 8-9 months ago. I get a tremendous amount of emails, and I do the best I can. Hey, I want to shout out Troy Miles. Thank you. You've been sending awesome links. I want you to know I'm getting them. Jennifer, I'm getting them. Thank you. Doug, I'm so thrilled about your family, and I would love to talk to you on the phone with all this craziness. Everything is just, it's crazy. It's crazy. So anyway, I want you to know that I'm so excited, and I look forward to hearing all about it. And as soon as I get the chance, I will answer all of those emails. But right now, I also send out free Bibles. So I'm sending out Bibles, and I'm sending out cards. I'm really doing all that I absolutely can. And I'm so exhausted. And my son's been standing behind me multiple times like, Mom, I need some attention. Now he's out of school. So anyway, that's my new motto. If you're not always exhausted, then you can do more. So let's exhaust our resources. Let's exhaust our energy. Let's do all that we can do while we yet have time to do it. Okay, all that being said, sorry I got to talking really fast, but I felt kind of pressured because I wanted to keep this video under 2 hours, and then I also wanted to touch on this update, and so I thought I'll just spiel it out real fast and we'll get back to this. And now I want to close the video. There's so much more that I wanted to touch on. I wanted to touch on the 5G maps. I wanted to touch on even some stuff for the QAnon people, but I'll be doing other updates on this as this thing unfolds, and we'll know more then. So this is enough for now, but I want to close out with some clips from this Walmart FEMA exposed. America needs to see this video that I put up in 2017. Like I said, Leah's been streaming some of this stuff, but because it was posted during the hurricanes, you know, people may not be getting the connection to what we're talking about now. But since we've been talking about Walmart, I want to point this stuff out because Sam Walton had intelligence connections and he worked in the internment camps during World War II. So I get it. I know that it sounds very extreme when we start talking about concepts like concentration camps on American soil. But it's happened before in our history. These are the internment camps. The last one closed in 1946. And hundreds of thousands of Americans were rounded up and put into these internment camps, mostly over on the West Coast. And they were bussed in and trained in just like this. These are American men, good, honest, hardworking American soldiers just doing what they were told as they bussed in and trained in all of these Japanese Americans, amongst others. People who had committed no crimes, anything, they were just rounded up because of their ethnicity. There was a huge turn against the Japs, as they called them, during the war, during World War II, after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And so all of these innocent Japanese, these Americans that were of Japanese descent and living here in America were rounded up for no other reason than fear-mongering, and they were put into these internment camps. And here's an article. This is the History Channel. I don't know if the screenshot goes up high enough, but this is just mainstream History Channel. Japanese internment in America. In 1942, thousands of Japanese Americans living in the United States are forced into war relocation camps. 2 months after the Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor, U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, ordering all Japanese Americans to evacuate the West Coast. This resulted in the relocation of approximately 120,000 people, many of whom were American citizens, to one of 10 internment camps located across the country. So, it says that some of the Japanese American citizens were allowed to return to the West Coast beginning in 1945, years and years later. And the last camp was closed in March of 1946. So this wasn't something that happened 1,000 years ago. This was 1946. That's what, 70 years ago. There were so many children in the camp. I'm sure there are people who were in concentration camps in the United States of America who are still alive to testify how they were just innocent citizens kicked out of their homes and made to relocate to concentration camps, not in Nazi Germany, but in the United States of America. And they're still probably alive today. So when we talk about these things, I know it's uncomfortable, but for people to say that it's unfathomable, you're wrong. Then you need to be educated and you need to wake up, because these are the things that people do. And all it would take is one false flag event, just like some shadow government could blow up the United Nations in Geneva and just say that right-wing Christians did it. And that's the exact tactic that Adolf Hitler used when they burned the Reichstag down. And then that was where the German parliament was housed. And then they blamed it on a specific individual and said he was seen at the scene. And they used it to suspend civil liberties. And they went out immediately, just by decree, and started rounding people up. And that was the beginning of all of that. And you'll notice here with President Roosevelt, that's exactly what he did. The stroke of a pen. There wasn't a vote or anything. And we've seen with these presidential determinations over these last several years, that we're pretty much already, we have a king, a fascist sort of government. We're not allowed to vote on anything anymore. The president just makes these presidential determinations, and it's as if they're law. Don't think that it can't happen, because this is how it always happens. So it doesn't just happen this way in other countries. It happened this way in our own country already in our lifetime, in the lifetime of people who are still alive today. That being said, I'm going to go into the Walmart video and show you how Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, worked in these camps, helped organize the concentration camps in America, that he was employed not only by the government of the United States, but by the military of the United States of America. And he was heavily involved in the last round of concentration camps on American soil. And that's why he was chosen to set up this network, this distribution network that reaches into every tiny town in America.
There's something weird going on with Walmart. Are we now seeing the true form of one of the world's largest companies? Is Walmart an entity of the government, operating in the private sector, meant to usher in martial law? Is its purpose found even in its name? Fact number 1, to understand the truth about Walmart, you first need a history lesson. The founder, Sam Walton, is long deceased, but his legacy is very much alive. What is he remembered for? Well, you may not know that Sam Walton was a part of the U.S. intelligence agency during World War II and a security chief over internment camps located inside of the United States. These camps held hundreds of thousands of whites of German and Italian descent and Asians of Japanese descent. They were held there after FDR violated their constitutional rights. Sam Walton oversaw these prisoners of war. The Walmart U.S. government connection is not new, you see. It goes way, way back. From 2001 through 2016, Walmart has received an estimated $50 to $100 billion in secret subsidies granted by the U.S. government. There are entire websites dedicated to following Walmart's grants, tax breaks, and earmarks. These websites unanimously agree that Walmart has received tens of billions of dollars in kickbacks over the years. Why are they getting so much money? Is it merely to keep their prices low? Or is it for other expenditures? Walmart has struck a deal with the U.S. government, hiring 130,000 reserve, active duty, and veterans in the United States over the past 3 years. A massive force of highly trained and skilled soldiers. It's an odd fact, because recently they just fired thousands of regular workers and closed 269 stores because of financial problems. So
not only was Sam Walton a member of the government and the military, but he absolutely did supervise and organize and take part in the last round of internment camps set up in the United States of America, where they rounded up American citizens and held them in internment camps. And he was sanctioned. He has been endowed by the government to set up this network, this distribution network that stretches its tentacles into every single small town in America. And we know, just look, all of the Walmarts are set up close to interstates, close to railroad tracks. And now, as this thing is moving forward, we're starting to see the disaster response team, which started in the early 2000s. And this is directly off of their website. It's not a conspiracy site. This is one of my other videos that I put up last week or whatever. I'll put the links to my other videos from Hurricane Irma and Harvey and the microchipping, and then this one and all of that. I'll put those links below. They also have, this is Walmart's website. So this is not some conspiracy. This is nobody's second opinion. This is what they put out about themselves. They say there are 6 disaster distribution centers strategically located across the country and stocked to provide rapid response to communities in the event of a natural disaster. Each distribution center is more than 1 million square feet in size, and they distribute to 90 to 100 stores each. So it's not that this hasn't occurred to them. So So now, since the early 2000s, they started doing the transition into the disaster response and response to terrorist attacks and things of that nature. So they've moved beyond. Now they have the network set up with the disaster response team. They have the chipping machines. They have the cameras everywhere. They have the facilities. They have the distribution next to the interstates and the railroad tracks. Now they've begun the last phase in the transition, which is the underground tunnels and the underground basement type parts of the facilities. So let's just take a look at what a few people have posted online and, just what we're seeing everywhere.
YouTube community, I'd like to show you this. I found that it has a license plate for Arkansas, and as you can see, this is a Walmart disaster response team. This pretty much confirms that this is going to be a FEMA camp and martial law and all that.
Hello, I make this video not a happy man. I'm at the neighborhood Walmart in San Jose, California. And this is what it has become. I did not want to believe it, but it's happening. Anyone who knows anything about jail or anything about that knows what this is. That is a holding area.
And this is actually where they're hearing these booms. Actually, this particular one is, and this one as well. You see that both of these have these reservoirs, these little sunken reservoirs behind the Walmart parking lot. This is Wisconsin, and I've got some of Florida and Arkansas and Louisiana and different places all over the United States. And it turns out that every Walmart has one of these little usually dried up, sometimes they have water, but every one of them has one of these. And I'm going to show you a close-up here. Okay, now if you notice, there is towards the parking lot, going towards Walmart, there are drainage openings, you might say. That's what you would think they would be, right? Culverts or openings that go in the direction of Walmart. Now that's interesting, and they're all this way, because if it was an outlet for flooding or something, then the drainages would be going away from Walmart towards the city sewer or lines or something. But the openings come from Walmart and into these big reservoirs. And invariably, I've seen almost all of them start where the shipping area is, where they pull the trucks up in the back, where they do their unloading with their distribution centers. And right where the trucks pull in, there is an opening and some sort, as if there's something going on. I mean, can you imagine in every one of these Walmarts, what is it that's in there that they would need to drain, right? Because we're not draining the streets. That the city handles that, drainage in the streets and, in case of flooding and so forth. And it's certainly not the sewer. That's not the open sewer. It's a drainage for something. And it's draining. You see the two drainage holes, openings, apertures right there, as they're always toward the parking lot, towards Walmart. And so what is it that Walmart needs to drain? Because you see Walmarts do this, but I don't see this happening with Kmart's, or I don't see Home Depots doing this. So what is it that Walmart needs with these large reservoirs in their backyards?
We have created, of all the Jade Helm Walmart closing episodes across the country, strangely enough, we have found that all the closed Walmarts are very close to railway lines. Access points such as this at Pico Rivera Walmart, which is only 1/10 of a mile from the closed down store.
All this leads into this set of dreams and visions that if anybody's watched my channels, you know that I clearly believe that God is not dead and that he still speaks to his people. And I have received dreams and visions, prophetic glimpses of the future from him about this coming nuclear war and several events that are on the horizon of humanity. And so when I see my brothers and sisters in Christ reporting tons of warnings from God that they are also receiving in dreams and visions, I'm not arrogant enough to discount them. If they say that they were shown by God something, then I'm at the very least going to listen to them. So I'm asking you to do the same and listen to all of these brothers and sisters in Christ who claim to receive dreams and visions, warnings from God about Walmart and what their true intentions are. Here's some prophetic glimpses.
And then our family was held by force inside the store, which was like a makeshift prison camp. My husband and I got to stay together to sleep, and my son was in another area close by. I don't know where my daughter was. There was food still in the store, but we were only allowed to have certain things if we were told. I had a scissors in my suitcase, and I was planning on sneaking it to my son. He was lying in his cot and asked me why I wanted him to have it. I told him it was in case he could find an opening to gouge his way out or something. There was a stern woman, and
she had her suitcase with her. That they went, just like during Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Harvey, they willingly went into this Walmart as part of this disaster relief, and then they were held and not allowed to leave.
The store was out of a lot of things. So I walk outside and it's nighttime, and I walk outside and I look, and the right side of the parking lot was all homeless people. It was like a tent city outside the Walmart, and it was sad, but it was the new normal. It was like I was used to seeing it, and so it didn't affect me, even though if I would see that now, I think I'd be devastated. So I saw hundreds of homeless living on the right side of the parking lot. So when I came out of the store, they were all on the right side. Half of it was dedicated to like parking, and then the other half was dedicated to the homeless people, although there was hardly any cars in the parking. Sorry, the Walmart was building underneath their building, and so I would look down, and my mother-in-law is still inside, so I'm leaning over this like fake gate that they had just put up because they were building, or they were remodeling. So I leaned over the temporary gate and I looked down, and they were building something. So there were guys working underneath the Walmart, and I thought it was kind of weird, and so I asked one of the guys that were working, I was like, hey, what are you doing? And they said something about an elevator shaft for employees, which I thought was weird because I didn't think there was a downstairs, but what do I know, right? So I thought that was weird, and I left. And when I turned to leave, I was instantly down below. So I am instantly down below, and the guys are still working over there, but I'm in a different area, and what I'm in is a huge concrete bathroom. So when I was down below, I knew that they were building, and they had an underground prison with a huge bathroom. I was in the bathroom, so I knew somehow what it was that they were building, and I couldn't believe that this was being built to house civilians.
We were below them, like laughing at us and making fun of us, and we were also dressed in prison outfits, solid color, top and bottom. And we were allowed to be outside for like 15 minutes every day, but it wasn't like green grass. It was a slab of concrete with a fence and multiple cameras facing in at us.
And when I came out of Walmart, the scene had changed. Heavy military presence was all around the store, of Walmart. And I was looking at the people by me, and I started talking with them, and I said, what is going on? And a lady that was next to me she pointed up to the roof of Walmart, and she goes, look. Look at the roof. And so I looked up, and I actually saw all these military men dressed in army fatigues, and they were lined up from one end of the roof to the other. And they were holding, rifles, like assault weapon rifles. And they had their rifles pointed at us. and they wouldn't let us leave the parking lot. And I felt like I kind of had heard the word martial law in my dream. That's kind of what I was getting in the dream, is that martial law had been declared. I then looked over to the left of the Walmart parking lot, and there was a huge red tent set up. It said processing center on it. We were ushered over to the tent, and then inside the tent, there was a desk set up with military personnel behind the desk. And they were handing us out these forms to sign, like a form to sign. And we had to fill out all of our personal information on it. After we were done filling this form out, we were ushered to the back of the tent and placed in a holding area.
See inside the Walmart, and they were taking people to the Walmart, and inside the Walmart there were no aisles, there was nothing in there. It was just a whole bunch of like beds and cots for people to lay down on. So that was his vision and his dream.
It don't make a difference, but I'm just going to tell you what I saw. So I was like in a room, and it was Walmart. It was Walmart. Okay, I know what Walmart looked like. I know there are signs. Everything was in Walmart in a stock room. And a manager, it was a man, came out. He had about maybe 8 to 10 other managers or other department heads in this room. And he looked at them. He said, look, okay, this is the orders I got. You know, once the food and everything leave off these shelves, we done. We can't put no more food on these shelves. And all the managers were looking around each other, you know, like they knew something was coming, or they knew it was coming. But this was like, we finally got the word. It's it. We can't restock any more food on these shelves once we are done, or supplies. Once we done, it's done.
Watching television together, and this Walmart commercial comes on, and it shows people dancing around in the store. And they had a bunch of beds, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. In fact, there was no shelves in the store at all. It had people sitting on beds, laying in the beds. You know, it looked like a homeless shelter. In this commercial, they were trying to portray that Walmart was such a lovely and wonderful place that people were making it their home. Home, sweet home. A home away from home. In the commercial, they were saying that they loved Walmart so much that it was like their home away from home and stuff like that. I don't know why, but I was noticing the floor, and then the floor had blue stripes, which I don't know what that means, but they were not like one after the other. They were kind of like spread out throughout the store, but I just wanted to, you know, mention that. Then after the commercial's over, my friend, he looks at me and he says, okay, now I'm convinced, now I believe you. I think Walmart is playing a part in his Shade Helm 15. He said that was the most bizarre Walmart commercial that he's ever seen in his life. And I was like, so now you believe me? Wow, see, and I told you. And I don't know why I dreamed that.
Okay, so my other dreams that I've had probably about a couple years ago, maybe now, it was back when they were doing construction. Well, their excuse was plumbing on the Walmarts, 5 Walmarts in the country. Their excuse was plumbing, but and one of those Walmarts is in my town, pretty close to where I live. So I was getting at least 3 dreams, maybe 4 dreams about the Walmarts. Basically kind of an ominous sense, like don't go to a Walmart in the event of a natural disaster, and definitely don't go in the event that martial law is declared, because in my dreams I remember the Walmarts were being used as detainment centers. Once you're in there, you can't escape, they won't let you. And I remember in one of the dreams there was different compartments inside the Walmart, so where I guess bunk beds, and just they were holding you there. And so there were these different compartments I remember in that one dream. But basically, like I said, in all the dreams, I just had this ominous feeling of the Walmarts being used as detainment centers. So again, I don't know what that purpose for their plumbing excuse was, but I really don't think it was plumbing, because they had police cars blocking the entrance to the parking lot of the Walmart where the local Walmart where I was. And if it was plumbing, why would you need police cars blocking the entrance, and why would you need all this security? It's like it was major security at this Walmart, and if it was plumbing, that doesn't even make sense. So it's my opinion. I think they were probably holding some sort of drill to what they would do in the event of a national emergency.
Janet Napolitano, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Homeland Security begins with hometown security. That's why I'm pleased that Walmart is helping to make our communities more safe and secure.